Bang boom! You are live with the Palazzo Podcast. I'm Michael Govier. You are talking with people who know something about baseball. We don't know everything, but we're going to try to cover as much as we can today. It's the second half, technically, even though it doesn't start till tomorrow. You may be listening to this on Thursday or even a Friday. It's Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We have a special guest. Deary is here. The basement's been restored for a while. He's gotten back to his regular life. Mosquitoes are biting like a son of a bitch, but otherwise, not too shabby, right, Deary?
Yeah, we're looking pretty good here. Back into the basement. Everything is restored, smelling good down here. We got the washer guy that came out today that fixed everything. We're ready to roll, man. Been real weird the last 24 hours. My wife texted me this afternoon. She goes, "Are you having a problem signing into Yahoo? Because I can't set my lineups." I'm like, "We had another day off. Don't worry about it, babe."
Yeah, no rush. It's Wednesday. They got one more buffer day, and they start up. There's only one game tomorrow, too. It's the Red Sox and the Yankees on Thursday. So really got till Friday outside of that. But we're going to talk about the big debut in that game a little bit later in our catch of the day. We're going to cover bullpens with today's guest and other baseball topics. Of course, name that runner on Fab Bid. We'll continue to play that game. But if you don't know who he is, he's a human being who covers fantasy baseball, specifically bullpens, but he also plays in tout. He has a lot of experience. I listened to his show. A couple of different shows, in fact. He's been on many different podcasts with many different people. I listened to your episode with Cork Stats back in February, so I can talk about some of the things that this guy right here, Greg Jewett, said on that show back in February. Did it hold up or not? We're going to find out. Greg, welcome to the show. It's the Palazzo Podcast. Are you ready for this cathedral of goofiness?
Absolutely.
You sure?
Depending on what I said in February, yes.
I'll tell you this. You said absolutely avoid the Kansas City Royals bullpen. So that was a wise choice. I think that was a very, that comment holds up without a doubt.
Yeah, well, I owe that to Mike Matheny. He's just a pain in the ass with bullpens.
You said a lot of great stuff. We're going to talk about bullpens. Greg, that's what he does. Greg can be found doing various things for Fantasy Alarm, right? And The Athletic. And, of course, your own Substack. You have your own personal Substack, which is a very, very huge, important milestone. I don't have a Substack. Deary doesn't have one. And only people who put together quality work that people have genuinely uplifted beyond your own touting get that type of experience. You know, get that ladder, that step. So I'm a big fan, a big respect to you. Shout out to you. Let's give him a shout out in real life. He's here right now. Look at that. We shouted him out in person. I think it was our first ever in-person shout out. So I know 3 cheers for that. That's enough of that. But we're really glad to have you aboard, man, because bullpens have been a mystery for a lot of us this year. And as we start the second half, I thought it would be a great way to kind of dig into this final chapter of the 2021 season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting coming down the stretch. The trade deadline is going to have a lot of ripple effects. That's, everyone's like, oh, who's going to get the saves on this team? I don't know who's going to get traded yet. If I was privy to all those things, then life would be really easy and I'd be parked out in Vegas making a lot of money every night. But until those things come through, it's just a matter of doing our best. And I, like most of us, FOB is running so dry. You're going to have to be really smart or just start putting a couple of $1 or $2 bids out a week or two ahead and hope you hit the jackpot, which is we'll touch on a couple of those as the show progresses, I'm sure.
Do you expect the trade deadline to be a busy one for relievers? Even though you can't predict the future.
I do.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about that later in the show.
Every contender needs it.
Yeah, right. It's something that's always permanently needed. It's like food. Every day people need to eat, right? So restaurants will always be in demand. Some go out of business, but there'll always be another one to pop up because we're hungry.
And it's the perfect situation because you have a lot of bottom feeders that have some guys that are doing really well this year, and then you look at some of those middle of the road teams that we'll talk about later. That are they buying or selling? But they have some pieces where they could sell and rebuild real quick.
Yeah, and that's why the article that published today on The Athletic, I focused on a lot of those teams in the middle and what their schedule is going up until the trade deadline. Because I think that's huge. The Yankee fan base, they got 8 of their next 10 games against Boston. Wow. So, it could go sideways fast. They're talking about buying Joey Gallo, but if they lose 6 of 8 like they've been losing this season to the Red Sox, do you really see them making a big splash at the deadline? It's really, really, really going to be interesting and who these teams play. Some teams might pretend themselves into thinking they're going to be a contender. There's a couple of soft schedules out there. I'm really curious what the Angels are going to do, but let's get through everything, as I know we always are up against the time.
Well, Doctor, it's going to be a doozy. And speaking of doozies, this is going to be a great show. I'm excited about it. I'm Michael Govier at MJ Govier. G-O-V is a Victor, IER on Twitter, at Christopher Deary, C. Deary, 1999, C. Deary, 1999. Dearly beloved, it's an easy thing for you to remember. And of course, Greg Jewett. It's Jewett, right?
Yes, but funny side story, because I said my son plays hockey. His first time he played up in Canada, we had a game in Ottawa, and they pronounced it Jewett, and he was like looking up at the thing like, who the hell's that guy? But yes, it's French Canadian, so
that's not cool. I respect you, and I would never disrespect your last name, so I want to get it right. I want to get it absolutely right.
Yes, Jewett.
Beautiful name. And you can follow Greg on Twitter at GJewett9, the number 9, GJewett9, GJewett9. Lock it in, follow him, follow the Substack. I signed up today. It was really simple. I actually did. I just typed in my email, and then you can go from there. And I think it costs money sometimes. Isn't that true? Right? I don't want to miss.
You can make it paid. I've been doing all my articles this season for free.
Ooh, that's a good way to spread the word. It is. It doesn't help you, but I mean, it's, good way to get yourself out there.
I did it last year, but I was doing it on like a Google Doc, and I was trying to type in all of the addresses every time I sent it out. And then I found that this was a much easier way where people can just click a button, like you said. And then when I type one up, probably I would say one will land on Friday or Saturday. Then it goes right into your mailbox, and then it's up to you if you want to read it.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited to talk bullpens today. We're going to do it all on the Palazzo Podcast. Remember, 2 L's, 2 Z's. Well, that is the wrong button. God damn it. Sorry about that, Greg. I told
Utah, give me 2.
There's Gary Busey. I knew he was hiding somewhere. I added a bunch of new sounds today, dearie. I got a whole,
I'm excited for it.
I haven't had a chance to upload them all. I got, I got Tombstone drops. I got some more drops from the league, which are always fun.
It was time to make a switch here. I think we've done it once during the first half of the season, mid-season. Let's get some new drops in there. We'll keep the 2 L's, 2 Z's, but let's get some more fun stuff in there. Love it, Michael.
Well, I feel like I haven't given you guys the best shows, and I feel like we can do better. And I'm not trying to look for pity here. I want to be honest. I just want to be pure and true. I keep it real, and that's one of the things. It's one of the strengths of this show is that we tell you the truth. We don't lie to you. And I feel like we can take it to another level. So I'm going to step it up in the second half. Deary is. I know Greg is always at it. He's at a 10 all the time. So you don't need Greg to take it up a notch any farther. Right, Greg?
Yeah. No, well, that's too kind. But my poor girlfriend, even today, this is supposed to be one of my 3 days off. I remember I said in February, I'm like, don't worry, things will lighten up. And she's like, things have gotten worse.
In February, they're lightening up. Yeah.
About a 9 on the tension scale, Rube.
Well, Greg, I actually thought today, too. I'm like, why are we doing the show today? Like, we could have took the day off. We should have took one full day off of no baseball. But it's not what we made a deal, and we scheduled it, and we stuck to it. So that's why we're here. And we want to do the show. I love doing the show. It's a lot of fun. But I think we can do better. We're going to continue to grow. And if you guys want stuff from us, please tell us. Tell me. Tell Deary. Tell Greg, and then Greg will send it to me. He'll forward it ahead. He's a cool dude. I'm sure you would do that. Palazzo Podcast at protonmail.com. 2 L's, 2 Z's. Real easy to remember. Don't forget that. And
give me 2.
The show was brought to you by rotofanatic.com. Greg, have you ever been to rotofanatic.com?
I have not. I'm not going to lie to you.
Don't lie. That's very, very commendable. A lot of people haven't, but the good news is you can check it out because we got the Data Monster. The Data Monster is here to help you. He's a really sweet little guy, and he's got his own theme song. A lot of fun. He also has tons of data. He can help you win, show you which pitchers are good, which pitchers stink, which hitters favor certain counts. What's their wobble like for those counts? A lot of, My Pet Monster. I mean, Greg, how old are you, Greg?
I am 51.
Okay. So I assume you probably didn't grow up on My Pet Monster. You would probably,
That was back at the grassroots of everything. Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I love Mr. Rogers.
Captain
Who's your favorite?
Kangaroo. It was all of and then Saturday morning cartoons, old school with the Looney Tunes and all that stuff. Hong Kong Phooey, all that mess, yeah.
Foghorn Leghorn. I'll say what?
Sure.
I'll say.
My dad loved him, yep.
I actually downloaded some Foghorn Leghorn today too, dearie. I'm not even kidding. But I don't have it ready. That would have been a really good time to have it. Shit, see? Sometimes things
What'd you do today, Mike? I downloaded some drops. Good work.
You wouldn't believe how long it takes to not only download the drops, but then edit them properly, because they don't always come in the package you want them to. You're trying to find the snippet of a clip, and then you got to break it down and cut it up. And next thing you know, 2 hours, poof, just fly by. So people say, oh, what's so hard about video editing or audio editing? It's time consuming. It really is. And I respect people who do that for a living every day, because it does take a lot of time. And it's not something you can always multitask. You can't be like, well, I'm over here having a conversation with my wife and I'm doing all this editing. It's just very difficult to do that. So commendable. Keep it up, editors. You're doing great work out there. All right, let's get into business time here so we can cover all that and move on with it. Greg, what is your best way for people to contact you? Is it truly Twitter, or is there an easier way?
Yeah, I try and be responsive to anybody that sends anything on Twitter. I don't care if it's a follower or not. I'm not one of these elitists that needs you to be following me to give you an answer. So people send me stuff all the time, and then I do have people that they'll send the DMs, and I just accept it and answer the question. I don't care.
Okay. Again.
So it's me, Michael. You can slide into my DMs. It doesn't matter.
Hey! That sounds good. You remember when that movie came out Friday? That was 95.
Yes.
You're probably in your early 20s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was all that stuff. I share all those older movies with my son. It's been part of the growth process there.
This is what
Brockness. We always joke about Super Troopers. My son knows that movie inside out and backwards.
We love Super Troopers here, of course. Yeah.
Classic.
I don't want a large farva. I want a goddamn liter of cola. Deary wants to be a father very much. This is a secret. It's not really a secret.
Oh, it's not a secret. It's out there.
Yes. So
I don't know.
I think one of the things I've misjudged about why you want to be a father, Deary, is you want to introduce all this cool stuff to your children.
Absolutely. Movies, music, pop culture, my friends, my podcast. I just want to hold a baby on this podcast and be like, look at this thing. I created it.
You don't hear that every day, folks. That's a new one for sure. But I'll give you full credit, full marks. Greg, you have one child, you said, or do you have more?
Yes, just my son.
Just a son. Cool. Well, shout out to Greg's son out there. I hope you're having a great day. And as we do the business time section of the show, second half is here. We're taking it up a notch. We're moving forward. Don't forget, rotofanatic.com. Check out the website. Of course, Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. Sub our YouTube channel. Sub. If you're watching this or hearing this, please sub the YouTube channel. Pretty, please. It would be something we think would help the show. Frankly, we think we do a pretty damn good job here. We entertain, we inform, we give you everything you want. What else do you want from us? Do you want me to run down the street naked in the middle of the afternoon? Because I won't do that. But if there's something else that we could give you that's reasonable, please let us know right here. I also want to say this is last call, dearie, for the Palazzo Podcast Invitational Trophy. This is the last week we're taking final exceptions. After that, bids close on Sunday night, Monday morning. It's the end of an era, and we got to make this trophy official. So last call, guys. If you have an idea for the trophy, please send it in. PalazzoPodcast@protonmail.com.
Yeah, I don't think it should be the two guys that are near the bottom tier of the Palazzo Podcast Invitational that are making the trophy. Hey, if you're in the top third of this league and you have a chance to win it, give us some ideas of what you want at the top of that peak of the trophy, and we'll make it happen.
Thank you. Greg, do you have an idea for a trophy?
2 minutes.
Let me marinate on it. I'll think about that one.
Oh, okay. I like that. Not an instant response. He's really going to take his time with it. We're trying to make it cool. Something related to fantasy baseball or something to do with anything related to our show. So I don't know what that'll be, but it's going to be a great trophy, and I think it's going to go to Richard Sands, barring any last-minute changes here. The standings are, Richard's dominating the Palazzo overall, and I don't see anybody beating him. But, there's a second half to play out here. One thing I do know for sure, dearie, is it will not be you or me winning this thing.
No chance. I'm in the toilet bowl. Me and Steve Paulo fighting for bottom 5 spots here. I've actually moved up a little bit. I'm 13th in our home league of the Palazzo Podcast. I think I'm up to like maybe 52nd overall. It's not been a good showing. I've been in the bottom tier since week 1.
Oh, shit. That's fantastic. All right. I mean that you moved up, not the other part.
Oh yeah, I mean all my other leagues doing okay. I'm competitive. Rasball, I'm doing great. NFBC, I'm hanging around middle of the pack. But yeah, our own invitational, I feel like an absolute goof right now as an analyst being that far down.
Well, don't let that happen. Here, our buddy Gilds is here. Gilds is a big-time, big money player on NFBC. He says, Mike, doing a great job. Keep it up. Thanks, Gilds. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. Everybody who followed us on the Twitter handle at Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. Thank you so much for following us. There's too many to name right now. We've been on a tear. 2 other things I want to mention real quick, and then we'll move on to baseball, Greg, I promise. I was on Al Melchior's show, the You, Me, and an Album. I mentioned it last week. I just want to mention it one more time. Check it out. Al's a great dude. You, Me, and an Album is a great podcast. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting. It'll expose you to new music, or it could be an album that you love incredibly. So you'll just be like, oh, God, I want to hear about this, hours and hours of entertainment. And I did a follow-up last Sunday's episode. He let me do the last 9 minutes of the show to say farewell to the death of Brian St. Pierre, drummer for Hum. You ever hear the band Hum in the 90s, Greg? I mean, you were of age. Does that ring a bell at all?
It does not.
Their biggest mainstream single was Stars. It was like in 95. And it was a heavy rock band. 90s, like space rock / kind of like heavy-ish.
Okay.
No. I do know I love them. I've seen them a million times. And their drummer died about 2 weeks ago. So Al let me say some really kind words because he was an inspiration to me as a drummer. And as a band, Hum is just a very unique thing in my experience as a music listener. So thank you, Al, for letting me do that.
That's awesome. I love Al. He's one of the nicest, most genuine people in this.
Yeah.
I've worked with him at FanRag, and then we used to do the bullpen reports for Fangraphs, and now we're reunited again because he's also hired by the Athletics. So it's always good to be associated with Al. Like I said, him and I he took me around Tout a couple years ago, him and Nando. And, riding the subway with Al and talking and things like that. It just, you pick up as much information as you can from somebody that's smart.
That is gorgeous. Yes. Love Al Melchior. If you're not following Al, get a clue. Get the net. Please follow the show. You, Me, and an Album. He's going to have a new episode out this week. Be about the new pornographers. Deary, do you ever like the new pornographers? Because I never was a big fan.
Never really picked up an album, songs here and there in Spotify. Couldn't really get into it, but I love what Al's doing because most of the stuff that he's putting out is actually stuff that I either haven't heard of or never got into, which is really, really cool. So I really get excited every time he puts out a new episode.
Yes. And the best thing about Al.
And reason will prevail. Reason will prevail.
He's a very reasonable guy all the time. Plus, he's funny and he's kind. He really is everything you'd want a person to be, except he's not, he's not the sexiest guy ever, but who is? I'm not. So, but he's still a great guy. So I don't think that should be any negative points for him at all. So please check out You, Me, and an Album. And then lastly, Brian Seymour has a new show. It debuted today. And it's called What This Song Means to Me. Right? Did I get that right, dearie?
Yeah, Means to Me pod. I recorded on Monday with Brian.
Oh, so you did it. It's in the can.
Yeah, I did it. It's in the can. It was so exciting to do. I can't wait for it to drop. And I'm excited to see. I just got little snippets of, a couple different episodes, including your own, Mike. And I'm so excited to listen to these as he's dropping them weekly.
Yeah, we're really excited about this, Greg. Do you know Brian at all? Brian Seymour? He was doing the Roto Ranger pod.
I've never met Brian, but I'm aware of his work.
Okay, cool. Well, he's a great guy. He's also an excellent radio. Beautiful voice he has. Hi, I'm Brian. Hey, I'm Brian Seymour. I don't know how he talks.
You're not even close, man. It's just this deep, bellowing, welcoming voice at the same time that you don't get from a voice that is like Brian's, but it was incredible. And it was so cool. He just dropped his mic and he's like, all right, Chris, talk. And I just talked for 40 minutes. It was incredible.
That's what I want. That's why I love this show too. So you got great music pods kind of coming out of the realm of fantasy baseball, but it's not about fantasy baseball, but they are fantasy baseball people. So please check it out. I really put a lot into my episode with Brian. Means to Me pod. Follow it. Find it on your podcast platform. Sub it, follow, and listen. And give us feedback because I'd like to know what you guys think. I'm really excited about it. Okay. No more excitement. Let's get chilled out here. Talk about baseball. Boring ass. Second half, 2021. I mean, what can we expect, really? We had a great showing at good old
Coors.
And there was a lot of fun there, man. Laddie was the MVP. That was wonderful. I didn't watch a goddamn second of it. I didn't watch any of the Derby. I didn't see the All-Star game. I really did take a chance to, like, chill, do some other things. I love baseball. I love it. But, Greg, I had to take a break. Were you locked into any of that stuff?
No, I missed the Derby as well. I saw, snippets coming across Twitter if I opened it up a little bit. But and last night I had the game on, but it was just kind of in the background. It wasn't like I was engrossed into it. So yeah, and like tomorrow morning I'm gonna appease my girlfriend. We're going for a nice hike out to see some waterfalls and all that stuff, because this will be like the last morning I'm not waking up and crunching numbers for the closer chart at 6 a.m. So yeah,
right. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, hey, if you're gonna go on a hike, you should. I mean, that's one place to go. That's just one place you can go, though. There's a lot. You're on the East Coast, though. Rocky Mountains are pretty far away.
Coors.
But everybody had a great time at Coors. Deary, did you watch a second of that crap or what?
I watched the whole Home Run Derby. It's been a tradition for my wife and I for years now.
Weird.
It's weird. We get into it. I was pulling for Trey Mancini from the opening round. It got real weird. I saw a lot of people posting on Twitter. They were upset in the first round because Trey Mancini got like an extra pitch after the clock had already ended. And these gamblers out here that are degenerates lost a bunch of money because he got that extra home run to take care of the title in the first round, made it all the way to the finals. But Pete Alonso was an absolute beast, hit 35 in the opening round. I get enjoyment out of watching the Derby. Checked in for the opening couple innings of the All-Star game last night, kind of, checked out after that. I had some things going on around the house. I tell you what, though, those jerseys were absolutely hideous last night. I felt like they got in Doc Brown's time machine, went back to 1998 because they were hideous uniforms.
So fetch.
Well, it wasn't fetch at all.
No.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody panned him. Right, Greg?
Yeah, those things look like something you see one of those like goofy softball teams wear at a tournament. It's like nothing.
Yeah, the American League had these weird, like all blue
looking. Yeah,
American League had these weird all blue jerseys. Totally look like, to Greg's point, totally look like just softball tournament jerseys. Like, just go with your home and away team jerseys. It's easily recognizable with the players. But I don't know.
What about the softball tournament? The softball celebrity game, though. Speaking of softball, anybody?
I checked in for a second. I didn't know any of the people, and I turned it off.
The only thing that, you got to watch Jenny Finch throw a couple pitches.
Oh, she was there? Come on, Jerry.
Yeah,
you know Jenny
Finch. She's always there. She's got to strike out some celebrity that's never swung a bat in their life. But I didn't know any of these people. Apparently, they're all like Twitter and YouTube celebrities, like influencers. So I didn't have many ideas on who these people
We're going to be in the game in 2026, dude.
Hopefully, yeah, because I love softball.
No, Deary, Greg, one thing you know about Deary, or you should know, he hates softball, and he's just not very good.
You're a lousy fucking softball player.
It's just the truth. I don't know why. He loves baseball. He's more of a purist. He's a hardball guy.
Throw me a 75 to 80 mile per hour fastball, but not something that's coming in at 40 miles per hour. I'm not going to be able to hit it.
It's true. It's true, Greg. Get to know Deary. It's the truth. All right, let's get into leading off. We always start off leading off with...
Good. Our first catch of the day.
Hey, did you see Star Wars in the theater?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool, man. See, that's cool. I thought maybe that was a possibility. That's the benefit of growing up in the 70s.
When you were 7 years old and you saw that, it was just like...
Right.
I see it now and I'm like, it's kind of hokey, but back then there was nothing like that around.
You cannot replace that perspective of when something is new and it really is mind-blowing, because when it's 50 years later, it's like, oh, that looks lame now. But you're right. That perspective is everything.
What you call it? I wish I still had them. I had the original figures. They came out. You guys are too young to know this. So they tested stuff through cereals back then. So they made it a part of like whatever. You ate so many, you sent in so many of the things from a cereal and you got these 4 action figures. Well, so many kids did it and ate up the bad cereal to get those action figures that they knew they could sell them in a store. And then boom, they were all over the place. But yeah. So it was like Chewbacca, Darth Vader, Luke, and I forget who the fourth. Oh, C-3PO. Those were the 4-pack.
Yeah, the old Kenner action figures. My oldest brother had them for sure, and they were passed down to me, and somehow they probably ended up in a garbage disposal somewhere.
Which a lot of people did, yes. I had a bunch of them saved, and sad story, one of my girlfriend's one of my sister's ex-boyfriends stole them out of the attic when I was at college, so he must have made a pile of money. Because I had a whole busload of those things, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's tragic.
Baseball cards too. I was like, man, it's okay. Everything happens for a reason.
Does it? Oh, we can have a whole debate on the show.
You didn't marry the guy, so that worked out.
There you go. Yep.
Anywho, catch of the day. It's the All-Star break, so you're probably saying, who's the catch of the day? There's nothing going on. Well, it's not true. We have a call-up for the Boston Red Sox making his Major League debut on Thursday against the New York Yankees live on national television. What a great debut that'll be. I mean, it probably won't be like when Steven Strasburg debuted. That was a pretty cool debut. Tough to top that one, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Jaron, or is it Yaron? I don't know if it's a soft J or if he's Jaron. Anybody confirm that? Because I'm looking at the pronunciation guide, and I want to always give full respect to the newcomers and get their name right. It doesn't have a pronunciation for his first name, though. Just his last name, Duran. It says Duran, by the way. I think that's kind of funny. Duran. So. Anybody know?
Yeah,
Jaron?
I looked it up on Baseball Reference. I didn't see anything. I would think it's Jaron, but...
Okay, well, we'll go with Jaron. I trust you, Greg. So Jaron Duran's making his debut. Greg, true or false? You know things about fantasy baseball beyond closers?
I do.
Okay, great. So what do you think about this call-up? Is this somebody who's going to have redraft value the rest of the season? Obviously, Dynasty, he's going to, he's an up-and-comer. He's a prospect that people like. So Dynasty, he's on everyone's team. But what about redraft leagues?
I'm curious. Now, it's been so hard this year because it's been so hit or miss with these prospects coming up because there's such a chasm between the majors and AAA right now. It's very hard to fairly, assess these guys. What I do like is that he's a late bloomer with power. He really carried the power over the gains that he got from working in the alternate site last year. So he's coming up with 15 home runs and 12 stolen bases. So that just gets our attention. What I also like is even though he's hitting 270, he's got a on-base percentage of 365. So even if he only hits say 250-ish or below, if he's getting on base and he's giving us power and speed, that's everything we want right now from anybody coming into the player pool. So I put a decent bid in on him on tout. I don't know if I'll win him or not. I had a couple of guys backing him up, just loading up on a couple of the double headers coming around the bend with Minnesota and Detroit. But we'll see what happens.
Sorry, you just said the secret word of the day.
All right, fair enough. But yes, I'm excited to see what he does, what he can do. And of course, this weekend in the NFBC, if he has a nice debut, then the people who spent money on Vidal might be kicking themselves.
Absolutely. He's got that nice OBP. He's got good plate discipline skills.
And he stood there like the house by the side of the road and watched it go by.
That's what you do. He takes walks, he gets on base, and then he can steal bags. Deary, are you excited about Duran coming up? And I think, and I'm hoping you'll agree with this, not spending money on Vidal Brujan last week would benefit you now. Because I would rather have Duran in redraft than Brujan. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to agree or disagree with you here. I love the jump he made from AA to AAA. Greg made a fantastic point with the fact that he went from 1 home run in 352 plate appearances to 2021 having 15. So obviously there's been some physical development there to where he's be able to pop the ball out of the park. The 12 stolen bases are really nice. The OBP, he was an OBP monster besides that year in AA, but when he was in single A, rookie ball and A+, he was a high OBP guy, over 400 once, close to 400 in his 2 other seasons. So this guy offers some value here. The question, it may be playing time, but you got to look at the corner outfielders there that they have in Boston right now. You have Hunter Renfroe, who's really come on as of late. That's a right-handed bat with some big power. Duran is going to give you a left-handed bat there. They have Hernandez over there who, they've been toying with him at the top of the lineup, at the bottom of the lineup, a guy who's had a really nice season come on as of late. But I mean, this guy, they're going to give him the opportunity. You're going to bring a guy up like this. They're going to give him the opportunity. I would try to scoop him up and see what you have. But Greg made a great point with what's been going on with a lot of these guys who have been brought up that really just haven't hit right away. Franco, it's been, some rough couple of weeks here. He's been able to grab a couple steals, been able to get on base, walk, but he's been striking out a ton. We all know what happened with Jared Kelenic when he came back up. We're probably going to see him here after the All-Star break, but he had a rough time as well. So proceed with caution, but if you have the Bucks to scoop him up, if you're in a head-to-head and you're able to scoop him up, go ahead and give it a flyer, and let's see what we got from this guy.
Say when.
I can't wait to find out. When is tomorrow? Thursday Live. Jarren Duran, Boston Red Sox. I truly believe, Greg, that it's wiser to spend on Duran than it is Brujan. I think we'll get more playing time from Duran. Brujan's playing time will be mysterious, even though it could change. I don't see it changing. In fact, I see the Rays adding tiny pieces that'll make playing time more difficult for Brujan.
I agree with that. And the one report I read from Boston Globe today said that they might move Kike into second base a lot too and give him a clear shot at center. So that eases a little of the playing time burden for Duran. So if you're bringing him up now, obviously Boston wants to see what they got ahead of the trade deadline to know if they have to add something else in the outfield or if he's the answer. So you would think they're going to give him full run here.
I agree. Greg's a smart guy. I like when we agree. That's fun. We can also disagree on the show. We're welcoming that. We open it up for all opinions on the Palazzo Podcast. 2 L's, 2 Z's. Let's talk about second half thoughts here. I just want to throw it out there real quick, because you're on the show, Greg, and you're free to say anything you want. Is there anything on your mind related to baseball in the second half? Something you want us to think about, or maybe a player or a team? Is there anything on your mind?
A couple. I think people are ignoring games left. Okay. So I went through this for the Athletic already. So in the American League, the 2 teams with the most games left to play are Toronto and Cleveland with 75 each. The team with the least amount of games left is down to Oakland at 70. There's a bigger chasm in the National League where you've got the Mets and the Mets and the Nationals both play 75 more games. San Diego's only has 69 left. So, they've played more than anybody. So, where they are in the standings and whatnot, they've been through a lot, but at least they've weathered a brunt of the storm. We've talked about a couple of those other things. So in the second half, it's who's going to get traded? And then how do I get cheap guys to avoid that? So one name I wanted to bring up, he's not really on a lot of radars, I don't believe. Paul Sewell of Seattle. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I do believe that it'd be nice to see Seattle hang around in the playoff race going here down the stretch. But if they can't sign Kendall Graveman to an extension, which at this point I don't think they're going to, he's a free agent at the end of the season. So you've got to keep rebuilding on the fly. It would. With what the relievers are going to go for on the market, a team like Toronto or others are going to want somebody like Graven, even if it's a setup role. So I think you have to move him. So, and with all the sticky stuff, so I'm going to focus on from June 21st on. Sewell has 2 wins and 2 saves already in the bank. 8.2 innings pitched with a 17-3 strikeout to walk rate. That's a 54.8 strikeout percentage with a 6.5 walk percentage and a 15.9 swinging strike rate. This is post sticky gate. So it's not like, I don't know if he can keep this up. However, that's almost a month worth of data on him getting some action. So, this is one of those things. The Mets gave up on him maybe a little too early, but the Mariners have been making some magic out there with the bullpen. So, heck, they've got him and Steckenrider both on the right track. So that says something to me. So I picked up Sewell a couple of places this weekend for a couple of bucks, just thinking, well, what the hell? Because if he does end up getting the closer gig and they trade Graveman, then I don't have to run to and overpay on the fob, because in a couple of leagues I don't have that extra money.
Man, by the way, I picked up Sewell in my main event last weekend. So I'm going to talk more about that later and name that runner-up fab bid. Also, around here, Greg, we call it The Great Spin Rate Panic of 2021. We don't call it Sticky Gate, so I just want to make sure that's clear. But I agree with everything you just said, man. You are a wise individual. You probably win a lot of money every year. People should listen to Greg Jewett. That's why he's on the show at GJewett9. That's numerical 9 on Twitter. GJewett9. I'm at MJ Govier, and he's C. Deary 1999. And we're talking about fantasy baseball. Second half. Games played is a great call. I know Deary wants to chime in on this, but this is the time where you really have to, you got to lock it up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
We got to lock it up. We do. This is the time. If we don't lock it up now, we're going to lose the opportunity, or it might even be too late for some of us. But Deary, 6 games played difference between San Diego and Cleveland, you said? Was that what it
was? Oh, the Mets. The Mets and the Nationals.
Yes. That's a big disparity and give you a big advantage, especially in Roto.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the Mets, they had all those rainouts at the start of the season, and they're trying to make up some of those things. It's so funny you bring up the Mariners. Like, this is a team that's 5 games over 500, yet they have a run differential of -50. There's no way a team like this are going to be buyers. They're on the rebuild.
And you know how many saves Rafael Montero blew already?
If you look at the funny thing, if you go on Baseball Reference, their record in 1-run games is like immaculate, but when they get blown out, it's just ugly. They just like, you can just kick our ass. We don't care.
When they get no hit,
that's where the big disparity is, because they've won so many 1-run games that when they lose, it really skews that number. But yes.
Yeah, the Angels have a 24-run difference over them. I know the Rangers are a little, or not the Rangers, the Angels are a little down this year, and I feel like they might try to make a move to get in the wild card race. I don't think they have a chance in the division with the way Houston and the A's are looking. But I look at the second half, and I look at some of these guys like the Cody Bellingers, who he's had issues with injuries, and when he has played, he's been an absolute disaster. He's 10% above his strikeout rate from the last 2 years. He's not hitting with any power. And there's been a couple guys here, not only him, but Mookie Betts with the Dodgers have not lived up to their top 40 fantasy value. Mookie Betts top 5 fantasy value. I feel like these guys are going to pick it up in the second half. And then I'm really starting to look at some of the hitters and also pitchers that we should be seeing here in the next few weeks. Look at Bregman, look at Rendon, who's going to be coming back from the Angels. I really feel like the Angels are going to possibly get to a point where they're probably going to be buyers if they need to get into this race. They have the mashers. If Trout can come back early August, I feel like they're going to try to supplement other parts of their not only bullpen starting rotation, but maybe even their lineup to compete. And then I'm going to be really interested to see what happens with Chris Sale. I mean, the Red Sox are in a real money position right now. They're bringing up their top prospect, their second best record in the majors right now. It may be the point where they end up running away with the division. I know the Rays are going to be on their tail. I think the Yankees are just absolutely falling to the wayside right now. I think the Yankees end up 4th in that division because I think the Blue Jays are going to be buying as well. So Chris Sale's a guy that I'm really interested to see if he can give you a playoff run in fantasy here. A guy that obviously has the pedigree over the years. It's tough because he's coming back from injury. Who knows what's going to happen with his innings? But also like Shane Bieber, another guy who's going to be coming back from injury here soon. And what's Cleveland going to do? They're in this wild card race, but there are some guys floating out there. If you can find these guys on the cheap in a trade, or even you can, ship these guys off in a dynasty and maybe supplement somebody else's team and maybe pick up some young talent in return and maybe get a good haul. There's the opportunity here. It's going to get real fun here in the next couple of weeks, and the trade deadline is going to change a lot of things, especially when we get talking about bullpens here soon.
Christopher Deary. Wonderful. I mean, they don't call him for nothing. This guy is a stud. He's one of the top-notch analysts in the game. If you're not following C. Deary 1999, then you're making a mistake, and you're missing out on opportunities to learn from people. Greg Jewett, Chris Deary, Michael Govier. On the podcast version right now, you're hearing great groove from the 90s. Return of the man, return of the man. It's a beautiful song. Do you remember that song from the late 90s, Return of the Mac? Did you ever go to a club and dance to that one, Greg?
Oh, yeah. That was my friend Mike's. That was his jam. Every time he was on, he had to make his move for the night.
Yes. Yes.
That's great. That's great. Unfortunately,
I was more of a too slow guy.
Oh,
or real close, or whatever that one was there. I always liked that one.
Next, too close. That's a
yes,
wedding
there it is.
classic.
Yes,
My wife and I danced at it.
That was mine. He had Return of the Mac, but I was the next guy. Yeah.
Next, too close. Yep, it's a wedding classic that my wife and I definitely get down to. We did 3 weeks ago.
You know, that's great. The problem though with any dance floor,
they're always too small.
Yeah. Right. Oh, did I blow that? Never mind. I blew it. Anyways, there's always a.
200 dicks on the dance floor.
There it is.
200 dicks on the dance floor.
Too many dicks.
That's the problem when Mark Morrison's jam at Return of the Mac is jamming and you want to get out there. You need some more ladies in the mix. I mean, if you're not into ladies and you want guys, then too many dicks on the dance floor is a great advantage for you. But me personally, I prefer women, and then that's just my personal preference. But I'm open to suggestions too, and I don't know. I've experimented, but we'll leave it there. I want to tell you guys that when we do Return of the Mac, we try to allude to who's coming back, who we know is coming back, but it's not a guarantee. Like Chris Sale. Chris Sale's creeping. He's getting closer. He's throwing simulated games, Greg. Do you expect to see Chris Sale by the first week of August, or is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy, but if he comes back in the first week of August, I would expect a 3, maybe 4 inning outing at the beginning. I don't know how far they're going to get him stretched out. It really, really depends on if he can get his pitch count to in the next couple of weeks here. I think first week in August might be pushing it, but I think a lot of it will depend on where they are in the standings. And again, Chris brought that up, and I said it at the beginning. I mean, 8 of the next 10 games for these two teams are against each other. So if Boston wants to put the last hammer in the coffin, they have a great chance to do it in the next 10 days.
No doubt about it. Hell yeah.
The
Well done,
fan
Greg.
base will be in absolute panic mode.
Man, I'm glad I called that guy.
Yeah, I'm glad we called Greg too, because that is sound advice, Greg. There's something about the excitement of a player returning that makes people pay too much on Fab and also commit too soon. And Chris Sale, if I look around in my leagues, NFBC, Yahoo, Fantrax, he's pretty much unavailable. Everyone seems to be holding on to him. So I don't even know if he's going to be available in certain leagues. Like Deary in redraft leagues, I wouldn't expect you would find him anywhere. I do expect you might find a better chance of getting Carlos Carrasco, or is it already too late now on Carlos?
I mean, I all my leagues, both those guys are already scooped up. I think where Sale is really going to help you down the stretch might be kind of those leagues that are more ratio based, the K per 9. It's not going to be win or loss based. It's going to be a lot more ratios. And I think he'll probably come back and give you those ratios, because Greg brought up the great point that, like, through August, we're probably only going to see 4 or 5 innings from him for about 3 or 4 starts. And sure, they're going to stretch him out here. He's been throwing some simulated games. He's going to see some live batters here soon, but they're gearing up for him to be there for the playoff run. I don't think us as analysts thought the Red Sox would be as much out in front as they are. I mean, I actually predicted they would finish 4th in the division. I was way off on this. Like, they are absolute moon stompers right now. And it actually makes sense now that I think about it. Like, they've gotten good enough starting pitching. Matt Barnes has been a lot better than a lot of other people in the fantasy industry talked about. A lot of people were shitting on him.
Greg Jewett.
Yeah, a lot of people were shitting on Matt Barnes and Adam Ottavino when it came into the season. We're like, Barnes is going to lose that job. He hasn't. He's been a stud. He was an all-star. Ottavino's been great getting holds. A guy like Eduardo Rodriguez, his ratios have been fantastic. His ERA is garbage right now, but you look at his FIP and his XFIP, they're really, really good. And they have the luxury of bringing up a guy like Duran right now. So I think they're going for it right now, but they're going to be cautious with Sale because they want him for that playoff run, because they're going to need that stud starting pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on that Cork Stats show, Greg, you said avoid the Boston bullpen. That was February 23rd. Now, I'm not harping on you. It's just the truth.
If you had told me Matt Barnes' walk rate was going to plunge that much, then I would have been like, oh, then go get him. His walk rate going into this year has always been a little sketchy, but yeah, he's made a liar of me. I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
Greg, before the season, we had over 40 analysts on our podcast, and Barnes was brought up maybe 10, 11 times. Not one person said, like, this is a guy you need to go buy. It was caution. When is Ottavino going to take over? at the trade deadline, someone's gonna, Boston's gonna go out and grab somebody. And Barnes has proved us wrong. So we have to admit our mistakes. We were wrong on this one. We were wrong with the Red Sox. We were wrong with their bullpen. And if you scooped up Barnes, most likely you got him later in terms of, you got him probably 14th, 15th closer in many situations, and you are reaping the benefits right now.
Yeah, I was hesitant about Mark Melancon too. We've seen how that's worked out.
Yeah, as was I.
Hey, Willie, where's the cat? I'll tell you what. If Alf could throw and close games, I would pick up Alf. I don't care who it is. I'll use anybody as a closer.
He's got that Melmac power.
He does. He's got that extra Melmac screwball. He was a legend as a softball player. I don't know if he plays baseball, but point being, Greg, is February 23rd when you were on the Cork Stats show. Shout out to John, by the way. MLB Moving Averages. Make sure you follow John. John's an amazing spirit. He has great guests on. He's taking the show to another level. Cork Stats, part of the FTN network. Good stuff. That was February 23rd. And, Melancon had just signed like 5 days prior to that, too. So,
and he was a mess. And, I did learn that in spring training with veterans, just throw it out the window because Melancon had more walks than strikeouts in spring. And I was like, oh, man, this is not going great. But he just didn't care. He was out there just throwing pitches because he knew what his role was, and he couldn't give a rip.
Exactly. By the way, Trevor Rosenthal is out for the year officially. If anybody didn't know, he got season-ending hip surgery. He's officially done, so don't expect him to come back. Total classic. Have a nice little season, come out of nowhere, and then sign a deal and just relievers. I don't trust relievers who come hot, get a nice deal, and then they just don't always provide it. I think if we looked at the stats, we started breaking down the data, we would find that a lot of those season follow-ups where they sign with somebody else don't always go very well. Do you agree with that?
That's the guys, the Hall of Famers, Rick Wolf and Glenn Cohen from Fantasy Alarm. They always say never pay for a career year in fantasy, and that's one of the. It's hard because you pay full retail for that one thing. It makes it difficult.
Couldn't have said it better. That's what we always say here, right, dear?
Yeah. So, Mike, you brought up Carlos Carrasco. Can we riff on him for a minute? What type of value are we going to get in August from Carlos Carrasco? So many people drafted him. I was high on him this year. I'm like, he's going to the Mets. This is a team that's going to compete in the East. And he got this injury, and he is still out. They've been cautious with him. Amazingly, they are still in first place, and we're going to be able to see him soon. What are we going to get from Carlos Carrasco? So I want to throw it out to you two.
He's rehabbing tomorrow. So would you rather have Carrasco at high A? So it'll probably be a couple rehab assignments, obviously. Greg, Carrasco or Sale rest of season? Who would you rather have?
Sale.
Because he's a better player. So if all things being equal, he's just a better pitcher, or?
Well, I trust the Red Sox health crew a little bit more than I trust the Mets. And
it's not the Yankees health crew. So.
Oh, good God. But yeah, I just think the Red Sox will probably be a little savvier with them. I don't know. I agree. Every time you trust something with the Mets, it comes back to bite you in the hiney. So I don't know. It just makes me nervous. Everything I hear about Chris Sale's been trending in a positive direction. It's like every time something with Carrasco is going backwards, and I just feel like it might be the same thing when he comes back in August. Anytime I used Carrasco in DFS last year, he imploded. If I didn't use him, he struck out 11 and gave up nothing.
Well, it wasn't the bozo season.
I was like, hey, it's the Greg Jewett season. And he just got nuked.
By the way, Greg used Heine. That's a very first for the show. Heine was used on the show. Thank you,
What,
Greg.
our 110th episode, and we got our first Heine?
Yeah.
What did you have? A few drinks this
one
morning?
of the older ones on here.
Huh?
I keep forgetting I can swear.
You can say what the fuck you want on this show. Also, you're not the oldest guy on the show
I'm a
because Al was on
teacher,
the show.
so I'm always used to covering it up. So yeah.
Hey, I used to be a teacher. I taught for 5 years. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's finish up this segment here. So yes, Carrasco's back, dearie. It's exciting. He'll probably tear his hamstring off the bone again, and he'll miss the rest of the season. One of these rehab starts. I would be very weary of it, but if he's available, you definitely put a couple bucks on it. You probably should have done it last week. It's already probably too late, frankly, now. But we're reminding you that he's on his first rehab assignment Thursday at High A, Port St. Lucie. Are they still at Port St. Lucie? The Mets, I believe that's their High A team down there in Florida. Port St. Lucie. Speaking of the Mets, J.D. Davis is crushing the ball at AAA on his rehab assignment. He went 4 for 6 with a homer the other day. He's looking like he's ready to go. Now, this is somebody who can help you. And frankly, You probably should have picked him up last week, but I still think the percentages, if I looked it up, would be pretty high in terms of availability. JD Davis, does he have a spot in New York, Greg? And are you interested in acquiring that bat for your fantasy services?
As with anything, I'd have to look at team need, but
sure.
Yeah, I saw him on July 4th. We went to a game with my girlfriend's brother, and they were brother and sister. Or sister-in-law. They were in town. And I was like, oh, my God, J.D. Davis is alive. So, yeah, he had a double in that game. And we'll see. He kills lefties, but we got to see if he can do it against everybody. And how much will the Mets play him? Because they haven't needed him.
He's rostered in 43% of Yahoo leagues, Deary. And
wow.
I think there's a spot in the outfield for him. So he's available in half of Yahoo leagues, which would tell me that he's probably slightly less available in FBC Fantrax. But J.D. Davis can also get on base very well. Mm-hmm. I like him in OBP leagues too.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the ethic of the Mets. Brandon Nimmo just came back. He's a high OBP guy. Jeff McNeil came back, and he's actually been okay. He's starting to get on base here. Mm-hmm. I think the big kind of the thing that's really a big issue with the Mets right now is like, what are they going to do with Jonathan VR? He's playing third base right now. Obviously, J.D. Davis can play third base and he can play the outfield. Dom Smith has kind of been a mess for them this year. A lot of people were high on him this year, and I was high on Dom Smith. But like, if J.D. Davis is raking and you bring him up, this is a team that's going for the NL East championship. No one else is really threatening them right now. And I feel like with the injuries the Mets have had, it's amazing that they are above 500 in that division right now. You got the Phillies that their bullpen is a mess. They've had health issues. The Braves with Acuna out, and some of the starting pitching issues, Soroka being out. Braves probably aren't going for it. I feel like the Phillies are probably buyers right now, but I think with the Mets, they just needed to get healthy, and they're starting to get people back. I feel like Michael Conforto has to start picking it up. This is a guy who's been really, really solid over the last few years, a really good left-handed bat. I feel like he's going to pick it up. J.D. Davis, I feel like if he comes up here, and starts to produce for them, I think he's going to start taking at bats away from Dom Smith, because this is a guy who can get it on base, like you said, Mike. So J.D. Davis, it's a nice speculative pickup here in fantasy. A guy who could probably bat 6th or 7th in a lineup, following a bunch of guys who can have really good on base percentages. So maybe it's a speculative flyer right now on J.D. Davis, but like, this is another guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy all year. But look at this. If you get guys healthy in the second half, you get Nimmo healthy, Conforto starts to come around, Jeff McNeil is healthy, he starts to pick it up like I believe he will, and there's no way Lindor is going to continue on this horrid pace that he's been going on. Had a home run the other day, starting to pick it up a little bit. I think the Mets could end up running away with the division, and you have 5 or 6 really relevant fantasy guys in the last 2 months of the season here, and J.D. Davis could be a part of that crew.
By the way, the Phillies are right there. They're only a couple games behind. So, yes, I see what you're saying. Like, they're not running away with it. The challengers are weak, but Atlanta and Philly and Washington, they're all right there. It's a tight race. And here's the most pointless stat you'll hear on this show. The entire show, I'm calling it right now. Currently, according to Fangraphs, the Mets have a 77.8% chance of making the playoffs. Yay!
So that means they're winning the division.
Yeah. Greg, are you a Mets fan? I mean, you live up in the area, so...
It's funny. No, I grew up a Yankees fan. However, when I started getting paid to write, my fandom kind of ebbed, if that makes any sense. Like,
no, we get it. We've had this conversation several times on this show.
When I grew up, I would only wear a Yankee hat. And, the only time I put on another helmet is when we're playing wiffle ball, we're imitating the players or teams having a game. But no, and now I'll wear... Say now, if I take my son to a game and I'll get a hat and T-shirt or wherever we go. Like I took my girlfriend Katie up to her first major league game. We went and saw the Blue Jays play the Mariners. We had our Vlad Guerrero jerseys on. It's whatever. My dad was like, putting the thumbs down on our Facebook pictures, but it's, long story short, I'm not the fan that I used to be. I will watch any game on TV. I'll wear anybody's hat or shirt right now as long as I'm into who they are. So, yeah, I love baseball, but my relationship with one team is not the same.
We love it. We've had this conversation many times. We've had it with Toby and Bubba when they came on. talked about that. The fandom, Toby said the fandom just went away, and I get it, and that makes sense. We still like our Tigers, right, Deary?
Go Tigers.
Yeah, of course. I grew up a Tigers fan, but I mean, there's been 3 parts of our life where they were absolute shit. So I had to roll with other teams because I'm such a big baseball fan. You know, in the early 90s, right when the Braves started getting good, I was a big fan of the Braves. You know, being a pitcher myself, I was a massive fan of Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz. And, you know, there's always been other teams that I'm getting in on. Like right now, there's probably 5 or 6 teams that I just love. And most of it has to do with the fantasy players I have for these teams. And, you know, I've been watching the Tigers as I always do, but, you know, I got to have a little bit of restraint when it comes to the Tigers because I know what's going with this rebuild. And I know that this owner is absolute garbage and the GM is just as bad.
Oh, boy. Well, there it is, folks. Brian K says, great show as always, guys. I follow closer charts on Google Sheets all season. Thanks, Greg. So you got a fan right there. Your closer charts are top notch. He also says, Steve Cohen did not lose money last year like other owners. He's going to get a guy or two. Oh, okay. Interesting. So the Mets could be buyers. They should be. They're in the playoff race. And make sure you follow Greg. G Jewett 9 on Twitter. Check out his closer charts. This is great stuff. People swear by it now. At RotoFanatic, we have Mr. Dr. Mike Carter. He's a great bullpen guy. In fact, you just did a show with him and Nate Markham on our pal Eric Samolski's Catcher's Corner podcast. So shout out to Eric, shout out to Nate, shout out to Mike. A lot of shouts there, I know. But that was a really cool, like, all out. He had 3 bullpen gods on at once. How was that show?
Oh, it was awesome. That was the first time I got to be on a show with Mike. He's such a great guy. And
did he make fun of himself?
Always. Very self-deprecating, but always giving compliments to everyone else. Yes, absolutely.
One of the nicest guys in the game.
Yes,
he is.
Yes.
And he's in the education realm, so I'm sure you guys could rap about that.
Yes. Yeah, we talked a little before the show about that stuff. Yeah. I know it's a lot of educators somehow get into the fantasy stuff, but, you know, as my girlfriend she goes, well, you're lucky you teach phys ed, so you have it easy. She teaches kindergarten.
Oh, she's a kindergarten teacher? That's rough.
So he doesn't get a break, whereas
I can't imagine
a free period and type an article. She's trying to keep herself together on her 30 minutes off.
I can't even imagine what's been going on with kindergarten in the last year and a half with COVID going on and kids being on Zoom. And how do you learn to read on Zoom? Like, come on.
I couldn't do kindergarten to begin with, but on Zoom, no. I would hear the classes and I was just like, oh my dear goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's intense. Don't forget, Greg knows closers. On this show, the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. We know everything about fantasy baseball.
Give me 2.
That's what we do here. So when those guys come back, hopefully they'll help your team. Shane Bieber, Luis Severino slowly grinding back. Eloy Jimenez obviously is coming back ASAP. He's rehabbing with the Charlotte Knights tomorrow. And that's good news. Alejandro Kirk of the Blue Jays on the brink. That'll help. He had a great bat, hit a double dong game back in April, I think it was, and he looks like a promising bat himself. And Zach Gallen looks like he's going to come back again from like his 10th injury this year. So, you know,
Mondesi, Seager, these are other guys in the fold coming up here.
That's
in
true.
August.
I dropped Gallen finally in my main event. I just couldn't take it anymore. After the last hamstring injury, I finally cut bait. After I held on to him forever, then he comes back, and I was just sick of it. I'm like, I don't have time for this because there is a certain point where you're like, oh shit, it's mid-July. I can't hold on to players who are not providing me return, no matter how good they are. If they could be out for the year, or he comes back for one start, or the Diamondbacks also shut him down because they're like, hey, we're not doing anything. This season's over. Why would we rush this guy back? There's a lot of factors always matter. Context, as Greg said, team dependency, how your build looks, all this stuff matters. But you guys already know that. I don't know why I'm telling you that.
Yeah, Greg, I'll throw it out to you. When do you pull the plug on players that either are underperforming or you have injuries like a Gallen or a Mondesi, you know, that just keep going back to the IL? When do you pull the plug in your leagues?
When you don't have IL spots, by the way. No IL spots.
No, this is very applicable because I have Mondesi in an online championship in NFBC. So that's been a killer, and that team it goes up and down. I told my girlfriend when I drafted that team, I'm like, this team is going to come in first or is going to come in last. And things have not been going our way. When you take Mondesi in the second round and he's not playing, then we obviously know where this this team's somehow in 7th. I don't know how, but I did okay with pitching. So if I could get him back and Gallo stays hot or ends up on a team with a short right field porch, they could make a push. But you really and I feel like the moment I drop Bobby Witt Jr., they're going to call him up. Now, he's still not in AAA, so it's getting to the point where I almost have to let go, and it's going to kill me. And in TGFBI, I drafted Framber Valdez and Eloy before their injuries. I did hold on to Framber because I thought there was a chance, but everyone's like, oh, there's no way Eloy's coming back, so I dropped him, and now I couldn't get him back because I didn't have enough FOB money left, so that's a sad story. So when Eloy hits like 3 home runs his first week, I'm going to be sad on the inside. My 3rd round pick didn't give me anything, but it is what it is. But to answer your question, it's personal, what you can handle. Like he finally had enough with Zach and said, that's it. And you just have to hope that when you cut the cord that those guys don't come back, and sometimes you do okay and sometimes you don't, but as long as you're addressing an immediate need, I think you just have to do what you have to do, especially with limited spots. To not have injured spots is very difficult. And we always get high turnover with closers. So, I mean, it's just the nature of the game. The churn and burn is always going.
And reason will prevail.
Reason will prevail.
Always does. In fact, the MLB draft just happened too. I was not a fan of the draft happening on the All-Star break-ish. I thought, I see what they're doing there. They're trying to take advantage of the dead time with no games happening. I understand that, but I also felt like it's a time to break, chill. Like, why not have the MLB draft be its own time on a weekend or something where you could still make it an event?
It could have been tonight.
Right.
Or tomorrow. I mean, well, no, they got the Yankee game tomorrow, but whatever. It's,
but they could have done today.
I watched the soccer game. I wasn't watching the draft.
Look, we're not draft experts here, so we'd be fools to tell you, hey, well, we're going to break down the MLB draft for you. We know what's going on with prospects, but those are prospects that are more involved already in the game. When the Tigers took this Job dude, I was like, oh, God, it's a high school player, which sucks, but we don't know who he is. And as far as all these other players that trickle down, like Kumar Rocker dropping to the Mets at 9, people think that's like a miracle and it's going to be a huge breakthrough, but we don't have no idea. We have no idea how these things will play out. So I also think analyzing an MLB draft right after it happens more than any other draft in any sports league is the most superfluous, ridiculous thing you could do. It's grading drafts right as they happen are pointless. And the MLB draft in particular is just even more pointless.
I give a massive amount of credit to those that do follow the draft. Our guys at Motor City Bengals, Chris Brown and Roger, those guys have been zeroed in for a long time on who the Tigers should go after.
I watched their show. I did. I watched it on Sunday.
I mean, how many of us analysts here focus on those amateur guys? We don't get to see a lot of them play. It's so different than basketball and football and with baseball. The one thing that frustrated me is our local sports talk radio been talking a lot of Tigers lately because they started playing well. They went on another streak here, and
they're third place in the
every other team in Detroit is absolute shit right now, and it's the midsummer, so let's talk Tigers. But somehow everybody became a MLB draft expert overnight in Detroit, and I laughed my ass off with people calling in and being like, Chris Illich should sell the team and Al Avila should be fired based on drafting a high school pitcher at 3. I've been listening to sports talk radio in Detroit for 20 years, and this is the first time that I've really heard them talk about the draft. And I get it. They need something to talk about. They need their talking points. They need someone to shit on overnight. But it's like, come on, there's not one player in that top 10 that we're going to see in the next 3 years anyways. You cannot evaluate any of these players right now, just like Mike said. You go back to the last 5-6 years and you look at high school pitchers and high school shortstops. Some of these guys came up and have been superstars. Some of these guys came up and they're utility players. Some of these players we have never even heard of. It's so hard to evaluate high school talent. It's so hard to evaluate Major League Baseball drafts. But yeah, to your point, Mike, I mean, it didn't matter to me that it was the other night. I didn't zero in on it. I was on Twitter and saw some of our guys over at Motor City Bengals talk about the Tigers pick, and some of the other analysts that we've had on the show talk about some of these picks, which is great. It gives me some information that I don't know about these guys, but like, it's just impossible to evaluate what goes on. Let's see till these guys get to the minors and see what they do over the next couple of years, and then we can start evaluating.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you, Deary. Very well said. There it is. So MLB draft content, please check out our fellas there. Motor City Bengals. They love focusing on what the Tigers are doing, but they know the draft too. A lot of great content on their YouTube channel and their website. MotorCityBengals.com. Roger, Chris, the Yoop, great people. Did you know that Yooper is short for someone who lives in the Upper Peninsula, Greg, here? Did you know that?
I did not.
We call them Yoopers. Just a little fun fact about the Great Lakes state. Yeah. You ever been to the Upper Peninsula?
No.
Okay, well.
Either have I. Lived in Michigan 40 years, never been to the Upper Peninsula.
That's hilarious. All right, listen to the Plaza Podcast. 2 L's, 2 Z's on Twitter, 2 L's, 2 Z's on YouTube.
Utah.
Please sub our sub. How many times do I have to tell you? Please sub our channel. Pretty please. I beg you. I'll do anything. Please, just sub the channel. All right, let's get into Enrico's Inquisition. Bryce Harper or Lenny Dykstra?
Bryce Harper.
Oceans or lakes? Which do you prefer?
Lakes. Oceans terrify me.
Van Halen or Van Hagar?
Oh, Van Halen. Not a contest.
WW84, the movie, or Trevor Bauer?
Trevor Bauer has more positive things going for him.
I might have to get rid of this one.
He is a good pitcher.
This is an old one.
Nelly, get ready for some doozies. Because it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show.
We haven't done an Inquisition in a bit.
Inquisition.
You keep saying that. But we just... You were on the show last week. Why do you keep saying this?
Did we do one last week?
Come on, where are you? Who are you? Yeah, remember we talked to...
I'm telling you, man, my short-term memory is falling apart. My long-term memory is great.
We had someone on the show, in fact. He's a really nice guy. Ryan Venancio, remember?
Correct.
The drummer?
And the Bauer stuff was already going on, so yes. Okay.
Anyways, Ryan Venancio, that was a great show.
I'm telling you, I live day to day, man.
I know you do. That's why I'm here to help, man. Don't worry about it. But Ryan Venancio is an outstanding analyst and an amazing drummer. Check out his band, With Sales Ahead. Are you into metal at all, Greg?
Nah, sorry. Never been my shtick.
Oh, you don't have to apologize for that. Well, what are your preferences? Are you a big Billy Joel fan?
No. U2 was my band in college. We always had different stuff in the old, back in the day, we thought we were badasses with our 6 CD changer.
Yes!
Hell yeah.
So we used to have them, the Black Crows, the Colt, a few other bands always in the shuffle going around when we had the house parties. So yeah.
Those are all new bands that I don't think anybody's mentioned on the show. U2, the Black Crows, which Black Crows, they're not terrible. I wasn't ever a big fan.
It was when the first one came out, they were hot. But yeah. Ever since then, it's been Fizzle City. But right,
Hard to Handle. I used to go around singing Hard to Handle all day when I was a kid.
Shaker Moneymaker is a great album.
Boys License to Ill was on every single one until we grew up a little bit. But yeah, I actually saw them in person, so that was nice.
No shit. Like when?
87.
Wow, dude.
Public Enemy opened up.
Oh,
whoa.
Shit. Now we're talking. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was before either one of them really popped. It was just an unbelievable show. Great energy. And it was nice because I told you I share stuff with my son. So they had on Apple Plus when they had the 2 Living Beasties when they do their show. Him and I watched that together, and he was just like locked in on it. He's like, "Oh my God, I respect these guys so much more now." It was just, and it was funny to hear him say like, "What drew me to him was License to Ill," and they were like, "That's the worst thing we ever did."
I went onto YouTube not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, actually, late at night, and I never saw Beastie Boys live. And I went and I was just looking at live Beastie Boys, and it was right before Adam Yauch died. They did like this concert in like London, and it was just them 3 on stage. Like it was just like unannounced. They came up, and it was absolutely incredible. I was just like, I can't believe these guys were this fucking amazing live. I mean, obviously they put out amazing albums, but like I never got to see them live, and I was like, man, these guys are really, really incredible MCs. But it's hilarious that you talk about like the iteration of them back in '87, which was completely different like 5 years ago. Like it was almost a joke what they did back with License to Ill. But also I couldn't even imagine what it was like being around during that time when License to Ill came out, man. I mean, Mike,
it was insane.
You're 6-7 years old when that came out.
For me, it was insane. It was just, and there was like a punk band from Ireland opened up, and then it was Public Enemy. I mean, they came out with like guys carrying like fake Uzis, and we were all just like, oh. And all of a sudden, Flavor Flav comes jumping out. We're like, oh, okay, this is all right. And then we listened to, but again, that they brought Public Enemy around because they were trying to get them exposure. And it was just, it was just an unbelievable scene back then. Things were really shifting around at that time. But, I was a senior in high school, but stuff was just, and then on the Full Circle, I saw a Joshua Tree tour in the fall of '87. So, I mean, I got to see both of them in that same year. And I took my son to the reunion tour in Cleveland. We were at the
when they did the 30th anniversary of Joshua tour.
Yeah,
my wife and I went. Ford Field was actually really, really good. That
was amazing. And then same thing. So now, the other day we were driving somewhere and he had like U2 in his plaything. It's like that never would have happened if we didn't go to that concert. So those are little things you share that are fun. So, and he plays Sabotage all the time. So yeah.
Wow. Man, once you get exposed to that stuff, you just for all times. Just forever change, man. Nothing will ever be the same once you hear a certain band like the Beasties or U2. Oh man, those are great bands. And people like to, there's snobs out there. Music snobs will belittle your taste and they'll ruin things for you. And don't let them do that to you. Enjoy what you like. Don't let people put their own context on your experience. That's my little 2 cents there. I just want to throw that out there. We're in Enrico's Inquisition talking with Greg Jewett. Follow Greg on Twitter at GJewett9, numerical 9. GJewett9. GJewett9. That's 2 T's, by the way. Greg, would you rather be stabbed or arrested? This is a question we often ask people.
I'll be arrested.
Okay, that's a good choice. It's a simple choice. It's not that complicated. What about the changeup, slider, or curveball? Which one do you prefer?
I like the aesthetics of a curve.
Oh, okay. And your favorite curveball or pitcher who threw a damn fine one you'd like to share with the audience?
Don't really have one on tap, but actually my favorite pitch was old Mario Rivera's cutter. That was just a thing of beauty.
Wow, we never brought the cutter into the conversation. That's a new one, and that was a legendary pitch. No argument here.
90-something% of the time, it was crazy. Everyone knew it was coming, and he still got him out. It was just bananas. That was my last guy. Like, as you know, I talk about the Yankees. That was it. When Mariano retired, that's when I kind of buried my fandom because it was time to move on.
Yeah, I thought what closer? Because closers don't always have that curve, right? They get a lot of hard stuff: the slider and the fastball, the cutter.
Hoffman had a curve, I think. I mean, Kimbrel has a good
changeup though. He had the killer changeup.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kimbrel's got the knuckle curve. There's a couple of others.
Oh, that's true.
It's usually a fastball slider combination, maybe
usually,
a changeup or a sinker. Yeah. You don't see many curveballs, like high looping curveballs, like a Barry Zito or a Kershaw. You don't really see those from closers because I think there's the chance of those like being left up there and popped out of the park.
Yeah, I think Krinchak might snap them off every now and again.
Special K, as you referred to him on the February 23rd episode of Cork Stats. I was listening.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that. I don't know if that's a thing, but I hadn't heard it yet. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
I heard it somewhere else from, I don't know if it was somebody from Cleveland or whatever, but yeah, I kind of thought that was cool.
It's one of the few drugs I never tried, dearie. Ketamine. Never got that one. Did you? I don't think
I've tried a lot, not that one though.
Yeah, I didn't think so. That wasn't around our area. It wasn't in Michigan in the 90s. I'll make that clear. Or in the early 2000s. We definitely had all the other drugs, though. Not going to deny that. I'll tell you this, Greg. If you could sail or go on a flight to the moon,
this is a new one.
Would you rather sail on a long? I'm talking like a long trip on a sailboat, or would you rather take a trip to the moon in a rocket ship?
We'll go rocket. I don't have that patience.
Are you a big boater?
No.
Have you ever swum? Swam?
Yeah, I enjoy swimming, but yeah, not a boat guy. Too much maintenance.
What was the best swim you ever had?
Best swim I ever had. I would say when we snuck into a reservoir up here and went skinny dipping, me and another couple. Well, me and my girlfriend at that time and another couple, yeah.
There it is.
The old Oregon night swimming, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's the kind of story we want on this show. Man, I haven't skinny dipped in a long time. Nobody wants to see that. So,
Thank God it was dark. Thank God it was dark.
You're a sexy man. I mean, I know I'm unattractive, but sometimes I have been attractive. Right now, I'm not attractive, but eventually I'll come back around and society will be like, "Oh, you're attractive again," and then I'll probably get fat again. It's just a rotating thing until I die. I never learned my lesson, Greg. I just never learn. But Greg has a lot to offer, and that's why he's on our show tonight, the Palazzo Podcast. Me, Deary, and Greg. We're talking in Enrico's Inquisition. Do you prefer butter or margarine?
Butter.
Good call. Margarine's really bad for you. I've discovered that. Like,
yes,
they make it sound like it's healthier, but it's filled with shit.
Right. I used to think the same way, and then a couple of nutritionists are like, "No, you're better off with butter." So I was like, "Okay, I might as well go for the taste then."
Part of that fraudulent fad where they said, if you take too much fat in your body, it'll clog your arteries. But it turns out like sugar and a lot of other stuff is much worse for you than that. That's not exactly how fat works. You don't just swallow a piece of fat and it goes right to your artery. Oh, it's stuck there now. No, that's not how it works.
There's good fats and bad fats. Most of them are bad for you, but some are better than others.
See, that's what the evolution was, dearie, is the good fats and the bad fats being divided. That conversation didn't even exist when you were growing up, Greg, right?
No, fat was fat.
Right.
Especially in the 70s, that was that whole thing, yeah. So I wasn't alive, but I've read things. So like I said, I used to be a teacher. I taught history for 5 years, mostly high school, a little bit of middle school at the end. What's worse, high school or middle school?
As a teacher?
What's more challenging for you?
The middle school is more challenging.
Of course it is.
It's all the hormones. As a matter of fact, it's because I teach 8th grade and then I teach juniors, seniors. So one day, one letter day, it's all 8th grade, and then the other letter day, it's all juniors and seniors. And the juniors and seniors every year are like, "Man, you're like cool now. In 8th grade, you were like just a hard ass. I thought you me." I was like, when you're an 8th grade boy, I have to be a hard ass because if I take 1 second off, you're going to jump on top of the lockers or do something stupid. You don't know what you're going to end up doing. You have to crack down on them. So yeah, it's funny now because I teach those 2 different grade levels that they see the evolution. They're like, "Oh my God, you're so much different now." I'm like, "Well, I'm actually the same, but you're different." That's the
you're the same. The difference is they grew pubic hair.
Too many cooks.
That's fucking great, man.
The 8th grade boys trying to be the big stud in class. It's just and then put in the mix with the girl. We really should have junior high should be same gender phys ed, but that's another story for another day.
That's interesting. I found middle school is the worst. I loathed it. I did it the last 2 years I taught, and I dreaded it all day. Like when that class would come up, because I taught social studies. So,
see, let me ask you: did you have to do like you're doing the same lesson 5 times in a row? Like if you have 5 classes?
No, because they were all different each day. That's true.
Okay.
They were different.
Well, see, that I like phys ed because even though I'm doing like the same lesson, I usually all of my sections are on different like ability levels, behavioral levels. So I never do the same class twice, even though I'm doing the same damn thing. Yeah. So that's the nice thing about phys ed is I get a little bit of a mental break. I don't have to. I don't know if I could have been a teacher where I was doing the same Civil War lesson 5 times a day.
No. I had at that time I would teach government 1 hour, and I taught U.S. history another hour, and then 6th grade history, 8th grade history. So it was all.
You had a whole.
It actually makes your job a lot harder because you have to prep for a lot of different
things. You're doing all
things.
those preps. That's even worse.
Yeah. But it's still better that way. I agree with you. The monotony would stink a bit. I never had the repetitive like there's 6 straight periods and we're blowing them out of the same thing. But I will tell you that teaching, you get a lot of pats on the back, but you just never. I found it to be a fun job. It really did. I enjoyed myself a lot of it. I had other things that came up in my life, which kind of, I started getting high and addicted to opioids. That'll derail a lot of people's professions. Doesn't matter what profession you're in, but I really enjoyed the work and I did it. It was like fun time. And if they just paid better, I probably would have done that forever. The pay was just pretty bad.
That's why I write.
Exactly. You need to supplement your income, dude.
Mm-hmm. I
get it. Trust me, I get it. But teaching is fun. And you're actually pretty open. A lot of teachers are afraid to like just kind of live their life openly. I'm not that there's anything for you to hide, but you know what I mean. There's a tendency where people are like, "Oh, I don't want to be seen in the wrong light," because people could take things a million different ways. And I commend you for just being a real dude.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, kids are like, "Oh, I saw you on YouTube, Mr. Jewett." I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
Hey kids, here we are. Hey kids.
It's usually about baseball, so yeah, I don't have to.
No way in hell any of your kids make it this far into the episode. No way.
Yeah, people at my work just started to figure out that I have a podcast and they're starting to watch. It's getting real interesting.
I remember when you told me that. You're like, yeah, people just keep emailing it. You said somebody emailed it to somebody. Like, hey, check out, Deary's got a podcast.
Yeah, we like hired this new teen coordinator that's huge into baseball, and we started talking baseball and fantasy. And I was like, yeah, I'm on a podcast. And then he just emailed it out to everyone at work. And I'm like, you fucking asshole, don't do this.
As he's watching you now.
Yeah,
he might be.
Hey, buddy.
Tyler, you're a good guy. I'm glad we have you around.
There you go. That's right. I take responsibility for all the bad things here. I do.
I'll say, but that was cool because even last year, students now coming up and asking me fantasy questions. So it's like really fun.
That's cool.
That is
fun.
Mr.
Jewett, I got A, B, and C. Who should I keep? I mean, that's to me, that's cool that I get to share some of that with the kids. So it's, and what's really funny is my son never I've been writing for Fantasy Alarm since 2018. I was writing for FanRag, who went out of business before that.
Oh yeah, FanRag.
And then I got the job with The Athletic. And all of a sudden he was impressed. That was like the first time I had clout. He was like, "Oh, The Athletic," because he knew what it was.
Yeah,
exactly. He was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's all encompassing.
He's like, "Oh, my dad writes for The Athletic." It was just funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been doing all this for all this time to help pay for your hockey, and now you're finally impressed.
Yeah, come on, son. He's been doing the same work for years. Just has a different title on it. That's all. But kudos. It's always nice to get your son's admiration, and you deserve it.
That is bullshit.
No, I think it's true. I think there's a lot of passion that goes into what Greg does. And when you can connect with the kids through fantasy or stuff like that, it makes your job a little easier, too. It does, because you start to have a rapport. But I bet they all play fantasy football way more than they play fantasy baseball.
That is correct. And I will help with football, but I'll just give you everything that I hear or see on Twitter. It's not I say that. I've won my league a couple of times, but my team name is Smoke and Mirrors. It's usually by a miracle.
Deary was like blown away because I tweeted about my draft on the Scott Fishbowl thingy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a huge deal, Deary. Are you familiar with this now? I told you to look
I am now just because I follow enough people that are a part of it. But I actually got pissed. I was like, what the fuck are you doing drafting a team 2 months before the season?
That wasn't my call.
It's a lesson that I learned this year with fantasy baseball, drafting in February. I'm like, what the hell are we doing when we have guys like Eloy Jimenez that goes down in spring training? And I'm like, You're even crazier doing it in football. But then you gave me the layout of what's going on and, the fishbowl. And I follow a ton of other people that are doing the same thing. But I will not draft a team more than 2 weeks before the season starts. I will not do it. I play fantasy football. I absolutely hate it, but I do it every year and somehow I do okay. But so I was a little surprised when you're like drafting football teams. I'm like, what's going on here, Mike? Come on now. It's a little early to be doing this. We're still in baseball season.
I definitely threw him for a loop with that one because I used to hate fantasy football. Now I'm cool with it again. So I'm not keeping Deary up to date on my situation and status reports. I apologize. It's also best ball too. So it's just draft and whatever happens, happens. So you're stuck with the team you have.
I'm still pushing best ball football to all my friends, and they're like, nope, that's not how we're going to do it. I'm like, dude, come on, get with the times, man.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Greg?
No, I was saying the best ball aspect of it, at least, the phrase, if you get a couple of injuries or a guy gets popped, at least hopefully you have somebody that can accrue points. But yeah. But you're
all stuck with the same team.
We're seeing all these people with all these different strategies, and everyone's like, well, I had the best idea. But we'll see how all that plays out. But I know the fishbowl rewards tight ends, right? There's extra bonus points for the tight ends.
Boy, I didn't even know that.
It seems to be the case because I've seen a lot of teams.
I think tight ends
out, and I've seen
I've
seen Travis Kelce first round. I've seen TJ Hawkinson second round. I've seen a lot of tight ends early.
Did you see that? We've all been saying his name wrong. Apparently, they had Travis on the thing. He said my last name is Kels.
Oh,
Oh, he just changes it just like that?
No,
We've
he's
been
like,
saying
these
Kelsey
people have been
for 6
saying
years.
Kelsey, and I just been rolling with it. But he goes, because someone asked him, they're like, is it Kelsey or Kels? And he's like, well, actually, it's Kels.
Whoopsie daisy.
Hey, our mistake. Sorry, Mr. Kels. This is not a football show, though. We've already talked way too much football. People are pissed right now. People are so pissed. This is a fantasy baseball focused show, but a life podcast, too. We talk about life, society, baseball. I will tell you real quick, just to clarify that, I am looking for opportunities in the fantasy football world. If you want to hire me, I'm available. And that's a satellite league. It's not an authentic Scott Fishbowl league, apparently, where those are like, there's a big difference. So I don't want to be a poser or try to be something I'm not. So it's clear. All right, a couple more. We're done here. Really, I just wanted to ask you, if you had to be a politician for 10 years, and then they would give you a retirement package for the rest of your life, would you do that?
10 years?
Yeah.
Well, at this point in my life, no. But 10 years ago, yes.
Oh, okay. You'd have to do the job for 10 years straight. You know, you couldn't half-ass it.
I got 10 more years as a teacher. I can make it to the finish line.
Yay! That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And as we always ask our guests, Greg Jewett here. Follow Greg Jewett. You do it 9 on Twitter. For love or money?
Love.
That is bullshit.
Oh, wait, no, I hit the wrong button.
You played the wrong one. Come on, man.
You can tell my bank account, you know it's real.
I bet. There it is. Greg Jewett's Enrico's Inquisition. He has cleared and passed with flying colors. Wonderful job, Greg. I'm Michael Govier at MJ Govier. G-O-V is in Victor, I-E-R. He's C. Deary, 1999. C. Deary is in Dearly Beloved, 1999. Greg Jewett, G. Jewett 9, numerical 9. On the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's.
You talk. Give me 2.
Now, let's talk a little bit more fantasy baseball, and we'll get the hell out of here. It's been a great show. We're having a lot of fun here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the ride. Don't forget, Palazzo Podcast at protonmail.com. Final call on those trophy ideas. We're presented by rotofanatic.com as well, so you can go to Rotofanatic, check out all of our latest work. We still got the closing remarks from the guy we mentioned earlier, Mr. Dr. Mike Carter. Even though Greg is amazing with bullpens, Mr. Doctor does his own wonderful work independently. Isn't that right, Greg?
Absolutely. Love Mike.
Yes, see? We got it on the record from a bullpen guru, one to another. I love that. He's going to be thrilled. He's going to be so happy to hear you say that.
I know you said you listen to the show, but I mean, we've really, the bullpen guys, we have a very tight fraternity. We all usually get along very well. You don't see any of this Twitter war bullshit with us.
The bullpen people.
You don't.
Great sitcom.
We support, we support, we retweet, we don't care. Yeah, we can get us all on a thing and nobody has to be the big man. That's what I like about us.
Hey, I love it, man. I'm not a bullpen guru, and I don't do that either. So I just want to let you know that you can be anybody you want to be and still be a reasonable, sensible person and not get caught up in some of the nonsense that could just, it can really kind of, ruin your day sometimes. We don't want that to happen. We want you people to have a good life, right?
Yes.
Yay! All right. Now it's time for... You grew up on this show. You probably remember this music. It's time to play the most ridiculous and pointless game that is sweeping the nation. That's right. It's time for Name That Runner-Up Rabbit. You know what that music's from?
I know it's from a game show. I don't remember which one.
Okay, well, you're right. It is from a game show. Deary, do you remember what we said last week? We learned this last
pyramid.
week.
$25,000 pyramid.
No, it's the $100,000 question.
What?
Right? The $100,000 question?
I
didn't watch that. I did watch the pyramid.
Shit. The $100,000 pyramid. Oh, Christ, whatever. You're right. You got the number. You got the monetary right, and I was wrong. So it's a $100,000 pyramid.
Okay, the pyramid. I remember that.
What are you talking about? $100,000 question? What is this? Just one question for
$100,000? $4,000 questions.
The pyramid, man.
I said it wrong. You said it wrong. We both got it wrong. Together.
Dick Clark was the host.
Is this a Ponzi scheme?
Oh boy.
There you go.
Mr. Dynamite!
I don't know, but I do know we're playing Name That Runner-Up Rabbit. Greg, do you know how the game is played?
You're going to tell me what you bid, and I got to guess what the runner-up was.
Genius.
Ooh.
Absolute pure genius.
Yeah.
You cannot fool this guy.
Genius, genius, genius.
Deary, as always, why don't you lead us off? Show us the way.
Okay, I will not met, dude. The last probably 3 weeks in my TGFBI here, there is not many bids rolling out there. It's maybe 3 or 4 a week in terms of runner-up bids. There's a lot of bids, but not many runner-up bids. So let's start with
people are giving up.
People are giving up. As am I probably am the last couple of weeks here. Not many bids, not many winners. But we're gonna go with the biggest bid in the past week here. Vidal Brujan of the Tampa Bay Rays. Big call up here for this team down there in Florida. Winning bid was $67. We're gonna throw it out to Greg first. What was the runner-up bid for Vidal Brujan? Winning bid $67.
I was gonna say I was surprised the bidding on him in any of the leagues I was in did not go crazy. I'll say the runner-up was 44.
Yeah, that was one of the higher bids. I'm gonna say it was 33.
Ooh, Mike, closest you have ever been. The runner-up fab bid was 35. Not too bad there, Greg. Mike, you're right there, man. 2 off. That's probably one of your better bids right there in the history of this game. Good job.
Thank you, dearie. Thank you. That means a lot to me. I do appreciate that.
I did misconstrue this. So I thought it was my bids, not just any. So that's why mine were so boring.
Yeah, you could just pull up
I have
leagues,
no fob left.
That makes okay. Yeah, sorry about that. You can anybody in your league, any player,
right.
and
Next
it could be any
I'll
league.
know.
But actually, I think that's kind of fun to figure out what Greg's bid was.
Yeah, it's fun.
If he missed out on it, that could be fun.
No beef here. I do believe that was a TGFBI bid, though, right, dearie? That was from TGFBI?
Correct.
Okay. Let's over to my main event league. Big main event. Greg, you ever played the main event?
Not yet. I'm hoping
don't do
next
it.
year.
Don't waste the money.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Mike, where are you sitting at in the main event right now? You been climbing?
I was hanging tough. I got better than where I was. I think I am currently in 9th place. So 9th out of 15, 73 points. The guy who was in first has 126 points. Yeah. 73. You think I can make that up in the second half, guys?
No.
In the second half? No. Are you against Phil?
I don't believe so. Unless his name's Clark Olson.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I didn't recognize a lot of these names. This is a online one. I assume Phil did one of the maybe he didn't do that. But yeah, Phil's the overall leader right now. Phil Dussault, the legend himself, right?
Yeah.
Look right. Oh, no. I want to shout him out. I never shouted out Phil in this pod. First time we're doing it right now. There it is. Thank you. Thanks for bringing up Phil. Good call there, Greg. But this is just boring-ass fab results from main eventers. They're really just like everybody else. They're not different. So, I mentioned that Zach Gallen was dropped by me, but somebody decided to pick him up immediately for $97. Deary, name that runner-up fab bid.
83. I go quick here. 83.
74.
Well, Deary's the closest. 91 was the runner-up bid. That's a tight race. 97 to 91.
That's the story of my DFS life. I was like, I literally had 91 in my head, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to go on. I do that with DFS all the time. I'll have a guy in my lineup all day, and I'm like, nah. Then I get cute with it, and I take him out, the old roster bait, and then he hits a home run. I'm like, I'm such a dumbass. I've even told Katie multiple times. She's like, will you just stop doing it? I'm like, I just need to set it and walk away.
It's like my mom watching Jeopardy.
Wow.
I knew that answer. Why didn't you say
it? Shout out to Mary. That's fantastic.
What did you have? A few drinks this morning? Huh? I think
let's take it over to Greg now. Greg, it's your turn. Give us your bid.
Well, I was trying to look up and see if I got Duran or not, but I bid a robust $7 on Garrett Cooper in the league. Like I said, I did this wrong, so that's my bad.
That's fine. We can still bid up. We can guess the Garrett Cooper bid. That's an important bid. They don't have to be big bids.
Okay. Well, I won them for 7. That was in a 12-team NFBC because I needed a corner infider.
Yeah.
I'll say $3.
He's been steadily the last few weeks here. I'll go $4.
Yeah, it was 5.
I was going to say 5. Mary Deary. What the hell?
I knew that was coming. Hold on here.
He still got me, though. You got me, Deary. Good job.
Let's see. Sorry for the dead air. Okay, I won Jaron Duran and tout.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay, yeah. This is what we were waiting for. The big eyes got me excited here.
So we can do a real time. Name that runner-up fab bet.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me see if I can.
This is happening in real time, dearie.
This is amazing. This is
unbelievable.
Legendary show history here being made with Greg Jewett.
I'm trying to find the bids here. If I don't know, obviously you've never been on tout, but if you've ever used On Roto, it's very cumbersome to navigate.
And reason will prevail.
Well, I have never seen a worse website than the one I've encountered with the Satellite Fishbowl League. This thing is just.
Oh, I've seen people complaining about that one too.
What's it on?
MyFantasyLeague.com. Never used it. It's not very intuitive. It seems like it has repetitive tabs, links. Yeah. It's much more complex than I think it needs to be. But I'm not complaining. I'm happy Scott Fish, if he ever catches wind of this, somebody sells me out. Not his fault at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are we doing there, Greg?
Well, it shows me winning him, but it doesn't show me
Josh winning him.
No, Herm Winningham. That's a classic.
It doesn't show me what the other bids were.
Oh, that's a bunch of crap. Damn it!
I'm right on the transaction page. I'm looking at it.
Not your fault.
Not many people did a lot of bidding.
The top people are giving up.
So
hey, there's nothing you can do. That's okay.
Yeah, I got him and I got Brandon Nimmo because it's a points league.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, good.
Solid.
How much did you? How much was the bid for?
Actually, here we go. I got Nimmo for 36. Somebody else bid on him, but I outbid Frank Stample for him.
Hey, okay, 36.
Mm-hmm. I won him for 36.
I think it's a points league. People would be going for him. I'll say 33.
28.
18.
Oh, Frank. Okay. Frank, you got to up that bid, Frank.
Well, that's a good.
And he's a Mets guy. Come on, Frank.
Yeah, come on, Frank. What are you doing out there?
It's a big pickup there. The leadoff guy is going to get on base. He's healthy now. I talked about it earlier. I think the Mets are going to go off here offensively in the second half. That's a good scoop.
Power, speed, gets on base with walks in points league. Yeah, I'm surprised he was available.
Well, there's been so many injuries. See, the hard thing about tout is you can only have 6 guys on the bench.
So
nice.
It's very limited.
It makes it with guys being available, especially with the amount of injuries we've had this year. Like you got to give up early on some guys.
You have to pay attention. Yeah, you have to pay very close attention to who gets dropped. So each week when I do the stuff, I try and mine, who's coming and going and whatever. Because I've had a few injuries in the outfield, and I finally the nice thing with that league is you can if you took a guy in the auction. Today was the last day. You can turn them, you can drop them, and they give you 10 times what you paid for them in the auction. So I took advantage of that with Marcell Ozuna.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That is a fun rule.
That's why I bid aggressive on Duran, because I get $230 tomorrow back into my fob.
That's a quirk. What a quirk that is.
Yeah,
Very
again,
cool.
The other day, Ariel got money back, and I'm like, how the hell did Ariel get money back? And then I emailed, and I was like, oh, it's in the Constitution, so you have to read all of these little things. But
you do.
So
that's a cool idea.
That is a great idea. I'm noting that and seeing how I can apply that to some of the leagues that I'm in or run.
It was only for guys in the live auction and not pickups in season. Only guys you got at the beginning, but if they're on the IL and you drop them, you get money back. So if I had dropped Ozuna tomorrow, it would only have been times 5.
Yes.
That's why I had to cash it in ASAP. So
there was no runner-up bid for Duran?
Not that I saw. I didn't. I saw Frank bid on Conforto, but I didn't. Well, now again, that news broke at about 6:30, and our thing ran at 8:00. So me being the nerd that I am, saw it come across Twitter, and I got my ass right on there. Saw that he wasn't on the place to bid. So
that's what winners do, man.
I was going to get Luis Arias just because I wanted him for the doubleheader.
There you go.
Nice.
Yep.
but whatever.
That's how you play. That's how it's done. I respect the hell out of that. Boy, time's really flying by, so that'll be it. We played our game. We played Name That Runner Up Fat Bit. That was fun. Woohoo! Yay! Yippee! Ha-ha! Yay! We hope you loved the game. We hope you learned something. Fat Bits, they change all the time. Waiver wire pickups. You know, however you guys run your leagues. We're not trying to alienate you or leave you out of the conversation. It's the Enrico Filato Fantasy Baseball Podcast presented by RunAFanatic.com. It's time for the final segment of this show. We're calling it Bullpen Bingo. That's right. We're going to play some Bullpen Bingo here. Basically, I'm just going to throw out a letter, and then we're going to talk about a specific player or bullpen. And Greg is going to lead the charge on this. Greg knows everything about every bullpen, so you should just be prepared. You should naturally be prepared for this, Greg.
I'll do my best.
It is. It's intense. Deary, give me a letter.
Well, it is bingo. Let's go with B.
B. That's a great call. That ends up being... Oh, crap. Where's my list? Oh, man, I totally blew this. I have my list here. Hang on. Stand by. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, I totally...
Now, when I roll out B like that, does it have to be a player that starts with B, or it could be a team like the Blue Jays or the Baltimore Orioles?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a player, but we could do teams too. Yeah, let's go with the Blue Jays because the Blue Jays are an interesting topic. They have a guy who I was hoping we'd get to when the letter came up, but we'll see. Tell me about the Blue Jays bullpen and how you see it for the second half, Greg.
They have to add somebody. So they're going to be getting at least one, if not two relievers in the upcoming trade deadline. I would think you said Alejandro Kirk earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if they floated him out to get a top tier reliever if that's what it's going to take to get him. Just because they have so much catching depth in their system. A team like Pittsburgh would definitely take him for Richard Rodriguez. And he does have player control past this year, which will make it more tolerable giving him up. You don't want to give Kirk up to the Cubs for a rental on Kimbrel. So I think that's going to really sway things. And Deary mentioned earlier about the Angels being interesting because they hold a big chip in Raisel Iglesias, who's a free agent at the end of the season. If the Angels decide they're going to go for it and keep him, that's fine. But if they come in at the last minute and put him on the trade block, if they wave the white flag, that's going to cause quite a ripple effect in the at the trade deadline end. But please, the Blue Jays adding somebody, they have to. I do like Jordan Romano, but he's been scuffling a little bit lately, and I think they prefer Romano in the 8th inning, not the 9th.
Oh, really? Okay. What about Mr. Merriweather? People seem to abandon him after there was a... What was that?
He had another setback.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. People are abandoning him again after this last weekend, hearing about that setback, but we don't know how major that is. I mean, he was still working his way back. Is it really hopeless to pick up Merriweather at this point?
It's not hopeless, but you also have to know they will not use him on back-to-back days. They said that before he got hurt. Yeah, so you're not going to get, like, he's not going to save Friday and Saturday, which is okay, but yeah, you know, a 15-team league, it's okay, but a 12-team or lower, no.
Is there any chance Trevor Richards could take this job somehow?
No, they need him to do multiple innings. He's been very good since they traded for him, but
yeah,
he's filling the role of, you know, a 6th into the 7th if they need it. And they sent down Castro, and they are going to be activating, I believe, Anthony Kay tomorrow, so that will help if they want to put Richards into more of a 1-inning opportunity. But you know what's funny is Tim Mize has been very good since the 6/21. He's almost like a Zach Britton clone. He's doing okay with strikeouts and getting a lot of ground balls. I don't think he's going to factor into saves, but for those in save plus holds, he's a very underrated asset.
Yes, he is indeedy. Well, that was fun. We kind of dug out of that hole. It was a slow start, but a great finish there by Greg Jewett here. Follow Greg G Jewett 9 on Twitter. See Deary 1999 and MJ Govier on Twitter. Deary, give me another letter. Let's see how this one goes.
Let's go T.
T. Hey, okay, that's a good one. I can work with that.
The
Taylor
hot letter
Rogers.
in Wheel of Fortune. So yeah,
It's a great letter. Yeah, that's a big money letter in Wheel of Fortune. Taylor Rogers. Taylor Rogers in the Minnesota bullpen, Greg. Can we expect second half value that is greater than anybody else in that pen for saves? And if it's a saves plus hold situation, is he still the best option?
In solds, he's still the best option. That's correct. Even though he had that bad implosion right before the All-Star break, which I'm sure is still resonating in fantasy owners' minds. Hansel Robles has been a little bit of a mess since the 21st. His walk rate has spiked again. They need. I said on the other show they need to trade him sooner rather than later if they want to get any value from him. I'm curious if they will deal Rogers. I don't think they will, but there's a chance they could float him out there.
Jesus,
we don't know.
Believe that, Deary? I mean, he just said that. Isn't that crazy?
That they won't trade him?
No, that they're even in that position where they might trade him. It's crazy. I mean,
I didn't think the Twins were going to be that great this year. I know, Mike, you projected them to make the playoffs, and I'm not surprised by the letdown that they're having this year. And, he brought up, Mike, you brought up Rogers, and Greg brought up Robles. I've owned both these guys in saves and holds league off and on.
Everybody has.
I've floated them out there. These are two guys that are 30 years old. I mean, these guys are not going to be a part of their future. And, you look at the status of the American League. The American League is not going to be as fun as the National League as we get down the stretch here. I truly think there's only two teams that are going to compete for the wild card. Maybe three if you throw the Yankees in there, but Greg brought up that Yankees schedule. I mean, maybe the Indians can get some things together. I actually think the Indians bullpen is pretty solid what they have at the back end there. But Toronto's the team. Toronto's the team that I think makes the most moves. This is a plus 72 run differential team. They're 4.5 out of the wild card right now. I think that's the team in the American League that makes those moves right now. But yeah, I mean, the Twins, I think there's no reason to hold on to a Robles or a Rogers. I think both those guys can be shipped out. Maybe they bring in some young arms because that's what they need right now is they need some arms. No one expected a 39-50 team this year in Minnesota. I think that they probably bounce back next year. I think it's very similar to what happened that last year that they had, what's his name? Molitor. Very similar to last year, they had Molitor there where they made the playoffs, and the next year they just fell apart. I think they bounce back next year because they have a lot of talent. I feel like Byron Buxton getting hurt did not help them at all. Donaldson being out at the start of the season, Maeda being the struggles that they've been through. I think Minnesota ships these guys off, whether it's within the American League or not. I think they need to trade these guys off. And I think both these guys can give you some value. But Greg brings up a great point with Robles. He was firing great for about a good month. And the last 2-3 weeks, he's kind of starting to fall apart. If they get some good outings from him in the next couple of weeks, he's kind of been doing some saving, some holding, 8th, 9th inning guy. I think if he has a good couple of weeks, let's ship him out before that deadline hits because Minnesota doesn't want to get caught in a position where they're stuck with a guy who just is faltering down the stretch and they're not going to get a great return. So I think both these guys are easily tradable for Minnesota.
Yeah, Robles' K percentage since June 21st has collapsed. It went from it was 25.4 before then to 13.3 after.
Oh, Greg, that's a great point, though. Can you remind the viewers / listeners / crew, Palazzo crew, you have a 3 foundational kind of platform, right? There's 3 stats that you kind of start with, I believe. Is that still the case? You mentioned it on Cork Stats, and I found that to be very interesting.
I like K minus BB. I like swinging strike percentage, and I like not giving up contact. Guys who can get swinging strikes, guys who don't give up contact, and guys who have a very good strikeout minus walk percentage. I use that in the off season when I'm trying to identify guys in bullpens that I might be interested in. It's not foolproof, but it's usually if you got a late inning reliever, you want somebody who's not giving up contact, especially hard contact. You want a guy who's missing bats, and you want a guy who's not giving out walks because traffic usually leads to trouble.
But Greg, that's simple. That's anything that any fantasy owner can understand. If you're a newbie to the game, those are 3 very simple stats that you can use to evaluate bullpens. So that's right on point.
And I pointed out in my article today because it's like you can look at total strikeouts, but it can be misleading because like I did the last statistical year. So Scott Barlow had 99 strikeouts and Josh Hader had 94. okay, over the last 365 days. But Hader threw 17 less innings. So that's why the percentages, to me, they give you a true representation rather than just a bulk number. But, you know, it's easy to search strikeouts as opposed to going to the advanced page and looking at the K minus BB where it's sitting on Fangraphs.
Well said. Absolutely well said there. We're talking about bullpens. It's Bullpen Bingo with Greg Jewett, myself, and Christopher Deary. Deary, give me another letter.
Let's go R.
R. Alex Reyes. Alex Reyes. A first half that just... If you've been paying attention at all to baseball, you can't believe it. You finally got return on investment, a low investment, because his ADP was in the 300s. Second half, Greg, is the party over? Because everybody's been pointing to this walks. His walk rate has been sky high all season. Deary's talked about it a few times. He doesn't believe it's going to last. Do you?
Well, here's the funny part. Since 6/21, his walk rate's gone from 20.6 to 8.6. He's getting less strikeouts, but he's putting less people on base. I think St. Louis is kind of married to him right now at closer. If they fade, I don't know if they would give up Gallegos, but that would be a huge chip if they put him on the market. And it is funny because really you go by all the numbers, Gallegos is the better pitcher of the two, but they like having him in the 7/8 inning where they can lock down a game and put him against the best part of the lineup.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. 20 saves. He hardly blows any saves either. He's been pretty reliable, and he hasn't got hurt. That's the other thing. No, on the year of the injury, if somebody told you 2021 is going to be the year of the injury, and you know who's not going to get hurt? Alex Reyes. Mind-blowing.
It has been strange, and it's funny because I joked on that show because Nate Markham is always, he's a Cardinals guy. He's always like, there's no way Reyes is going to hold this job, and here we are.
I think Nate got, I don't know if it was you or not, Nate, so if I was wrong, correct me, but I remember saying Gallegos could be the closer in the preseason. I drafted him a few times with that in mind, and I think it was him being a local guy. I said, no, that'll never happen. It wasn't that far off, though. I mean, he is one of their better bullpen arms, and he still has.
He's the best bullpen arm, but they like him.
Better than Reyes, even though Reyes is Studley, right?
If you go by the numbers, Reyes has saves. If you go by the pure numbers like we just quoted, the K minus BB and the other stuff, Gallegos comes out ahead of him. Reyes does have very good stuff, but sometimes he gets too cute.
Okay.
He's one of those guys where you wake up in the morning and see the save in the thing and you enjoy it, but if you watch it in real time, it's a white knuckle ride.
What about Lars Nootbaar? No, I just want to say Lars Nootbaar. Sorry. He's not a closer or reliever. He's a hitter.
Yeah, that 89% left on base percentage is absolutely incredible for Reyes. It's 13% above his career rate. But, Greg brought up a great point. Probably the tradable chip for the Cardinals is probably Gallegos. I mean, Reyes is only 26. This guy was a coveted prospect for them that was just injured for years. I think the Cardinals are really getting to a point where they may be out of it. These first 3-4 weeks here, we're going to find out they're in fourth place in the Central, 7.5 games out of the wild card. This is a team that tends to be within the race, but somehow the Brewers, with this ridiculously low batting average, just continues to win ball games. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Cubs out in this division. But
dude, that Brewers pitching staff has been legendary.
Pitching. They have what nobody else has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially in that division. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals do here. I think this is a team long term that is going to be successful. I mean, they went out and got Arenado. They have some younger guys that have some talent there, the O'Neills and the Carlsons, but they have some older chips that they can, send off. Matt Carpenter is probably going to get traded for a bunch of garbage. But yeah, Gallegos is someone that you could probably ship off.
They could do something for Gallegos. Here's what I think. We want to see what St. Louis does. Like if they bring up Nolan Gorman by the weekend, then we know they're going to try and do something.
Yeah. Yeah, great point there.
He hit a home run today off of a lefty off Zach Lothar at AAA. He's in AAA, which means he can come up without going through protocol. If the Cardinals are serious about contending, then they have to bring him up and they have to do the things necessary to put him in that position. If they don't call up Gorman and it's the status quo, then I can't see them making a run at that division or the playoffs. They have no shot at the wild card. It's division or bust. And as you said, if they keep drifting, there's no chance.
Yeah, and it feels like every bullpen we're going to talk about here, we're going to talk trade analysis and whether or not they're shipping guys off or holding guys at where they're at. But, even talking about those secondary guys like a Gallegos, you look at that crazy bullpen there with the Royals, there could be 3 guys that they ship off.
Well, the Cardinals are minus 40 run differential, and they're going in the wrong direction. I don't think they're that great a team anyways, so it's probably time for them.
Call 911!
Yeah, call 911, Cardinals. Good call. All right, Deary, give me another letter.
L.
Well, that's an interesting letter.
Does that give you anything? I'm not even thinking about who it could be related to. I'm just giving you a number that pops in, or a letter that pops in my head.
It's a perfect letter because that brings up Lou Trevino. Lou Trevino of the Oakland Athletics. Is he the guy for the rest of the season, or is there someone else in the Oakland A's bullpen? Because Trevino's ratios have stayed pretty damn solid. He's not striking out as many guys as I would like him to be striking out, but I still think he's the best option of anybody they have in the pen currently, which doesn't include Puck because Puck's been injured and in the minors.
And he hasn't been doing well in the minors.
Yeah, he's getting older too. The clock's really ticking.
I've been so wrong about AJ Puck. I thought he was going to come up and be a dominant, great
Randy
lefty
Johnson?
with a wipeout slider, just getting people out at will, like Crochet looked like last year, but has not looked like this year. But anyways, so Trevino is the man right now. Obviously they signed Trevor Rosenthal for a reason. So maybe they go into the trade waters, but Oakland's not really a team that we see make splashy moves at the deadline. I could see them bringing back Soria to be a setup reliever. But I don't know that they would go top shelf after a Kimbrel or somebody else to shore up the 9th inning. I think they would address their roster in other ways.
Trevino and Diekman are going back and forth.
They brought Diekman into one game because there was left-handers coming up. He's not been very good the last couple of weeks. If you look at his numbers isolated, Diekman has since June 21st, Diekman has a 24 K percentage, a 20 BB percentage, and a 14.7 swing strike rate. So he's still getting swinging strikes, but that walk percentage has jumped from 11 to 20 since the check my hat stuff.
That is a red flag. It was a while there where Diekman was getting the saves, then Trevino got the saves. This is back earlier in the season too, so I'm just wondering if
they were going back and forth, but it's been mostly Trevino with a side order of Diekman when there's say Yordan Alvarez coming up in the 9th.
Hey, that reminds me. Quick fun fact. I'll throw this at you guys real quick because I think you'll find it of interest. I traded Lou Trevino and Kenta Maeda for Gleyber Torres in my home league the other day. What do you guys think of that?
Is this a redraft or keeper?
Keeper. Maeda and Trevino for Torres, who has 3 home runs on the season. 3.
This is Dynasty, like you said?
10 keepers, yeah. So I'll be keeping him now.
So you finally gave up on Maeda.
I did. This is somebody. He sent me the offer and I can get out of Maeda's old ass and go to somebody much younger. Yes, Gleyber sucks right now, but he's still only 24 years old, guys. 24 years old.
He has been showing signs of life. So
he has an OBP, for not making a good average or making a lot of hard contact. His OBP is still decent.
That's he's not striking out a ton. He's getting on base. It's so absurd that this guy only has 3 home runs. But it's just this weird off season with the Yankees where LeMahieu's been trash. Somehow Stanton is healthy, so that's in a total anomaly as well. And Torres just isn't doing it. I've been sitting Torres on my bench. I keep trying to float him out in a trade, but nobody wants him right now. But it's probably an okay move.
Yeah, you got nothing to lose there from the most. I mean, if you weren't keeping either one of those guys anyways, why not?
Yeah, I mean, is Lou Trevino going to be a top 10 closer next year that you're keeping? No.
No,
I mean, you look at this A's bullpen. I mean, you got Trevino, then you got Diekman, Romo, Yusmeiro, Petit. These guys are all in their even late 30s. So, I feel like they might need to make a move for somebody else, maybe another old guy like an Ian Kennedy or a
like Greg said,
Brad
Soria is the
Hand,
perfect type. Yeah, that's the perfect guy to fit in.
Throw in just another old guy. God, I'm sure they wish they still had Liam Hendricks over there.
You don't pay for people in Oakland. That's not something you do.
Right.
Jerry, give me another letter, please.
Let's go with C.
Ooh, C. That's a fun one. Class A. Mr. Class A of Cleveland. Karinchak obviously came in with an ADP is too high the season because Class A has been very much the guy for a lot of the season. But Karinchak's had a lot of wins and saves. It's been kind of a mix and match here and there. Do you expect the same thing to continue the rest of the season? I know you even liked Nick Whitgren early on. A lot of people liked Whitgren, and he really hasn't been a part of this.
No, I'm happy that they gave Clase the chance, and I think both of them will remain valuable. This is one of the, speaking of anomalies, this is one of the rare bullpens that has had two productive relievers at the same time.
Right.
And actually, the weird thing is Clase's throwing more strikes lately. Now, he did give up the home run the other day, but he's at his swinging strike percentage and his strike percentage, throwing strikes, has improved over the last month and a half. So that's something that we want to keep going in the right direction. Hopefully, they'll get back on track. And remember, the Cleveland has 75 games left, so there's still plenty of roto goodness to be mined from both of those guys if they're getting a save or two, back and forth, whoever. So I did not give up on Clase in my 14 team head to head. We'll see what happens there.
Good call. Karinchak, yes, his ADP was a little too high because I took him in, I think it was at around 125. I took him in the main event at like 140-ish or so. He dropped a little bit, and I was like, I'll just take a chance. But he's still giving you 6.
That's not too bad, yeah.
Yeah, it's not god awful, right? It wasn't like a total disaster. 6 wins, 9 saves, and he strikes out guys at a ridiculous rate with a 2.50 ERA. It's a nice pitcher to have in your squad regardless.
Yep.
Special K.
And they play in low scoring games, so those are going to keep happening.
So rest of season, you think it doesn't really matter? It's just going to be like a rotation between these two guys?
I see them using them both, yes.
Okay. But there's no way to really tell, like, oh, I know this guy's probably going to take control. It'll probably just be what it's been all season because it's basically worked for them. I
think so, yes. And usually if there's a runaround, he prefers Karinchak. So like the 10th inning, it's usually him. Like in a tie game. That's why he's getting all those wins.
It's true. And Deary will be really happy because supposedly they might get rid of that rule with the next CBA next year. No more ghost runner or leadoff runner, whatever the hell they call it.
Let's just hope
I'm okay. I'm actually okay with it. I'm more frustrated by the 7-inning doubleheaders. I want 9 innings. Come on now, let's play real games here. I'm okay with the extra inning thing. It's fine. It's exciting.
I just want baseball. I don't want a lockout.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Greg. Greg, where's that? Oh, yeah, we got that one. We're getting a lockout for sure, buddy. I'm sorry, Greg. Party's over, man. You know it. I know it. Deary knows it. Hell, everybody in baseball knows it. Call it a lockout. Call it a strike. Call it whatever you want. But it's going to be fucked.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough off season.
All right. Dear, give me another letter. Come on.
Actually, let me throw this one out to both of you guys, especially Greg. What are the odds if the Yankees completely fall apart here? You talked about the lineup or the schedule they have in the next couple of weeks against the Red Sox. What are the odds that Aroldis Chapman possibly gets shipped out? He's under control for one more year. He's about to be 34 here coming up. What are the odds that he maybe gets shipped out somewhere in the National League, maybe the Phillies?
I think the Yankees would entertain it. I don't know if another team would take that contract.
Yeah.
Really? He was so good though. I mean, it wasn't like he's had a bad run.
He was great the first 2 months.
Yeah.
I broke it down in one of the coffee and closers. It was the first 18 games he was lights out. Then the next 14 was not so good, and then the game where they made him walk Carlos Santana. His confidence just evaporated. Yeah. You could just see the body language. Like, you remember the beginning of the year, all of the pitching ninja things, it'd be strike 3 after 103 miles an hour, and he was standing up, strutting his stuff. now he gives up the home run to Alonso and he's holding his head. I mean,
it doesn't exist anymore.
This is somebody that's lost right now. He has no confidence and he doesn't think his manager believes in him. I mean, if you're a closer, you need to have confidence and you need to know that your manager is behind you, and he has neither of those things. I mean, you saw Garrett Cole wanted him nowhere near that game. He was like, "You're not effing taking me out of here for Chapman."
Do you think the deciding factor here is the fact that he's under control for one more year and it's $17 million a year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's going to be a bitter pill for another. I mean, if he was still pitching lights out, then another team would take him. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot of money to. I mean, what's the difference between him and Jose Alvarado right now? If you're the Phillies, the Yankees need him to really get his mojo back. And it's all about throwing strikes. I mean, Brad Hand can get guys out throwing 93 with a four seam and a slider. There's no reason Chapman can't follow the same path throwing 98. I mean, he pitched at 98 miles per hour with success in 2019. This isn't a velocity thing. He's not throwing strikes. And so when he's not throwing strikes, he's predictable. So they're just sitting on fastballs, and his fastball is kind of straight. So
yeah,
if you're not worried about a slider or a splitter, you're just sitting dead red. And then when it comes in, although he hung a slider a little bit to Alonso, but he's got to get ahead. He's got to throw elevated strikes at the beginning, get to that top third of the strike zone. I mean, that's how Cole got Alvarez out. He got 2 strikes at the top of the strike zone, then he went higher and he swung under it. This isn't rocket science. He can throw that seam speed, but he's got to throw strikes. If you're always working from behind, his strike percentage just evaporated. It's like almost at 50% right now.
We're going to get all in your face and point out your faults.
Tell you, Aroldis Chapman is not going anywhere, though, dearie, because they need him. Because Britton, they can't rely on Britton anymore. He's been really injured. He's had the hamstring thing. He's had shoulder stuff. So that's the problem. Like, the guys that they could rely on elsewhere have also failed them. Even when they abandoned Aroldis, Greg, too, the last few games for the break here, the other Luke Gay and the other.
Yeah, and I mean, Chad Green had the tough outing on Sunday, but they pitched him 2 innings on Friday. So usually if you throw a guy 2 innings, you want to give him 2 days off. I mean,
it's not 1975 anymore.
Right.
Remember Mike Marshall? He was amazing.
I think this is going to be the biggest thing going forward in the second half is not only injuries with starting pitchers, but you're getting to pitch counts with some of these younger guys. And some of these bullpens are really, really getting stretched out. I mean, even if with our hometown Tigers, we got 3 guys that are on pitch counts here. And
your
2 of the
was gas last weekend.
They had 2 of the veteran pitchers are on the DL, and it's just 4th, 5th inning, bullpen. And I'm just like, this is why the Tigers are absolutely going to fall apart and struggle to win 70 games, because you're going to rely on a bullpen that's not that solid. So this is, if you play fantasy, like, this is something you really have to keep in touch with going forward, is looking at these starting rotations, looking at young guys coming up, looking at guys that are on the DL, looking at guys that are on pitch counts, and where we're at with some of these bullpens, because some of these bullpens are really going to be working hard to get some innings and get their strikeouts here in the second half. It's going to be something that you really, really got to pay attention to.
And I remember the one game that stood out for me was the game that they had Funkhauser as the opener, but they needed him in the 7th inning.
Yeah, he was their 7th inning guy.
He threw 3 great innings, but not when you needed them. So it was
absolutely, Greg.
So that stuff's going to be very, very it's going to be hugely important. So obviously my job the last month and a half here is still going to be important, because I got to stay on track of all of these things, but it's okay.
Yeah, Greg, you got your work cut out for you your last 2 months here.
The trade deadline will give me more answers. That'll help. Once the trade deadline goes and we see the chips fall, I can say, okay, here's A, B, C, and D. Because like today on the closer charts, I went in and I started putting guys at a different color saying they're on the trade block. So that's going to throw a different wrinkle into things, but we have to start thinking. All right. I think everyone's like, oh, the end of the month, it's okay. It's going to be here quick. And to follow up on that note about the Yankees, after they get done playing 8 out of 10 against the Red Sox, they play 3 against Tampa Bay. So the only break from that is 2 games against the Phillies. But if if they line up with Wheeler and Nola, that's not good either. So the the Yankees could have a very, very tough stretch here. I don't know who they're going to get with the Phillies yet. They haven't announced their rotation yet, but who your team gets too. I mean, this is going to be, if your team matches up with all the other team's best pitchers, you're going to struggle in this little stretch.
No doubt about it, Greg. No doubt about it. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We could do this forever, but, people have lives, Jesus. I would love to talk more bullpens, but hey, that's just a reason to have Greg back on the show real soon.
Anytime.
There it is. We got him on the record, dearie. You don't have to come back if you don't want to, Greg. Just tell us off air. It's fine.
I love being on shows. This is easy.
It is. It's a good time. Talking baseball, meeting people, connecting with Greg Jewett today on the show. I think that's what we've learned today, that through baseball, we can all connect and on a deeper level, maybe find a common ground, some understanding, some serenity, if only for a moment, because really life is just a series of moments anyways. Make sure you seize yours. Get out there and live it up. And do so while listening to the It's Rico Palazzo Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Palazzo Podcast at ProtonMail.com. Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's.
Utah, give me 2.
On Twitter. Sub the YouTube channel. Please sub the YouTube channel. Pretty please. Tell your friends. Spread the word about the show. I know you're going to actually get less and less of you. We're going to have a reduction in our audience because football is invading. Party's over. I know the truth. We all know the truth here. All-Star break means people start cashing out. Baseball, their teams suck. They're like, well, I don't care about this anymore. So there'll be less excitement, dearie, but we're going to make the best of it, right?
Yeah, I'm not ready for football. I mean, I will do baseball till October. I'll do my football drafts, but I'm ready to dive deep in for the rest of the season for the Palazzo Podcast. I want to thank Greg for coming on. Absolutely awesome. I mean, 2 hours and 10 minutes. This is pretty close to a record. You absolutely brought it tonight. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this community and pod tonight.
Awesome. I appreciate the kind words. And again, anytime I've always tried to be accessible and I don't, whatever. It's got to be humble and keep on trucking. And the tout stuff and what drives me crazy at this time of year is when you start seeing people do less and less activity, bidding. This is the time where you can make some hay. So even
me in my main event.
Look where you can make points in the standings, and that's where you got to hammer. I mean, this is it. This is the moving season. So, if you're 3 points away in stolen bases, then you go overspend on Duran. If you're 3 points away in saves and you wait till the trade deadline comes down, then you go get the guys that get those spots, or you drop a cheap bid on a guy or two. We gave you a couple to think about. There'll be plenty more, and I'll include those in the coffee and closers. I always do a Sunday fob sneak preview with stash things, and then we think the Reds are comfortable. They're going to be activating Michael Lorenzen. He's probably going to fill the TJ Antone role. So if you're looking for a guy to get multi innings and maybe a save or two here or there, I mean, do we really believe in Heath Hembry?
I do. No, that bullpen's a mess. There's 4 or 5 arms there, but I think Lorenzen and Lucas Sims are the two guys that I kind of zero in on when they're healthy to be the best.
Sims should be back by the end of the month, but everything, as long as Lorenzen could do back-to-back in AAA, he'll be back probably no later than this weekend.
We should have mentioned been return to the MAC. That was a great call. That's an obvious choice.
And one more, Nick Anderson. He might be back in August. I mean, Diego Castillo has not run away with that closer role. Putting Nick Anderson away in a couple of places for $1 could get you saves for the last 6 weeks of the season.
All right, we'll see about that, Nick. That's a great call now. Yeah, $1 now.
Mm-hmm.
But
$1 now or $100 in August when he gets a save.
That's how you win. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's Greg Jewett breaking it down for you. Follow him on Twitter, Greg Jewett, Jewett9, Jewett9, numerical 9. And, of course, all of the great work he does with Fantasy Alarm, The Athletic, his own charts. Easiest place to go is Twitter to find you, right?
Yes, sir. I pin the closer charts every day, and the link to the coffee and closers is right in my bio.
Excellent. As far as me and Deary, we're going to be back on. We have tomorrow. We're doing a Thursday show, Deary. I don't know if you'll be here, but 9 o'clock again.
Thursday, no Friday?
No Friday, because he had.
This actually works out perfect because my brother's in town this weekend.
Yay! Perfect. Well, I'd help my brother move again on Friday, so I moved it to Thursday.
Perfect.
So awesome. Thursday night we'll be back on the air at 9 p.m. Eastern time with Chris Robin, local Detroiter, Detroit Beastie himself, a Michigander. So It's going to be a a Metro Detroit area free-for-all show. We're looking forward to that. Chris loves football, but he also loves baseball just as much. Make sure you follow him. Follow Greg. Follow C. Deary 1999. Follow me at MJ Govier, G-O-V as in Victor, I-E-R, on Twitter. We are on Instagram, technically, too, and Facebook. So if you like those other places, we are there. But most of the heavy doses are on YouTube and Twitter, and occasionally some Instagram, which I'm trying to mix in a little bit more. And lastly, I want to say thank you for all the positive feedback on the Ronald Acuna screaming video. That was very nice. Everybody said a lot of funny things.
You got like 20,000 views on that thing.
Yeah, you never know what people are going to like. It's very strange. So
amazing.
It pretty much encapsulated the moment.
Yeah. What else can you? That's what I'm trying to explain to my...
Yeah, my season's over. I immediately told everybody I'm trading everybody I have, and I've just been getting offers left and right.
Hey, Patrick Ryan, good to see you, brother. Yes, it's over. There's nothing else you can say. I tried to explain it to my mother. She's like, "What was that video?" I'm like, "Well, the guy got hurt."
Is your mom on Twitter?
No, I put it on Instagram too. That's the only reason she caught it. And she's like, "What is that video?" I'm like, "Well, the guy got hurt for the year. He tore his ACL, and he's a really good player." Really nothing else you could say, Mom. So I thought it encapsulated the moment quite nicely. She's like, huh. I don't know if she got it or not. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. So thanks, everybody. You guys are the best. You guys make it worthwhile. And we'll be back here Thursday night. Make sure you follow Greg. We love Greg. Thank you to Greg. Me and Deary will be back here Thursday evening. Until then, of course, Greg. Catch you on the flip side.
Yes, sir.